Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Pew, 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 pew.
Wait a minute.
This is how we do it every week. What are you doing?
No, we missing something now. You done added something to the element. We missing something. We missing
the intro.
Something. Yeah, we missing something.
I skipped the intro because we got other stuff to get to. We don't need. Hold on, I'll bring.
Okay,
let me bring up the intro. Hold on, I'll bring up the intro. We got better things than our stupid intro.
We got to give the whole effect, man. We got to give the whole effect.
Right. I'm on it. Hold on.
Let's get it.
Hold on. I'm on it, baby. I got that intro ready to go. So hold on. Shorts. Where is it? See, I didn't even have it loaded up, man. Because
Ari,
man, we don't need that.
Ari Gold.
Goodness.
Y'all see how he do us today on the resume?
You know what? I'll just pull it from Rumble. It's fine.
Wasn't even visible. His visibility is clouded today. His visibility.
I'm gonna cue it up. See, man, I'm not a producer. You know what I'm saying? We just can't afford a producer, but it's all good.
I understand what she was doing. So he was on it.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me get that going for you real fast here. First, we want some volume. Yeah. And then
I love my brother, man.
Man, you hit me up.
He's running right in.
You hit me up, dude.
Right in. I was here, like always. All
right, here we go.
Here we go, Fresh Plank, man. He's high off the grifty still. I promise you. There we go.
Nope. See, I screwed it up.
Fresh. There you go. There he is.
You know, I'm just gonna let it run.
This is what I don't be seeing. I be over here jigging. See, I be getting ready. I be neat. This is my both finger.
Oh yeah. Haram in the building. Fuego in the building. Oh yeah. But see, we're not featuring ourselves. Oh yeah. Pew, 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 pew. Let me just kill that.
Too far.
Okay, now let's just get to it. Good intro. Thank you. Let's just get to it. Chatters, we're going to do it a little different tonight. I know we normally kind of talk to you guys as we go. We're going to bring in our guest and we're going to have that conversation. And then kind of as it works, if you know, you say interesting enough shit, we'll get to you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I am so, you know what? I got to see, Pro got me all messed up. Ladies and gentlemen, I am FW Mike. Some call me Fresh Mike. Some call me White Mike. Just call me both because I am those things. You can find me on Twitter at Seahawk Comedy. And to my right, my partner, the man with the plan, the blackest Proud Boy in America, teamed up with the whitest Hotep in America to make the best show in America. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him, DJ Protocol.
DJ Protocol.
What up? See, listen, y'all know the chatters know. That's why Haram laughing. We all know, man. That intro, man, it just get us right. You know what I'm saying? I be back here, head be getting right. I said that earlier, but I had to say it again because, man, it just get us feeling, get the juices going, man. I hope y'all are doing good. Hey, Amy, what's up, my dog? Dumpster Fire in the building, brother Fuego, man. I'm feeling good right now. You know what I'm saying? We got a legend in the building, a young legend.
Are you holding me up? Man, you hold me up just to frustrate me, aren't you? You're doing the thing where you, man, come on.
Just a little bit.
Come on. Screw us. We're stupid. I mean, you're not. I love you, bro, but we're stupid compared to this.
I'm a stable genius.
You are a stable genius. You are a stable genius. Woo. All right, man. Are you feeling good? I know you had a good week. We'll get to it and all of that good stuff later on. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, this man is everything that you think is cool and then some. This man is your favorite writer's favorite writer. He's your favorite journalist's favorite journalist. He's about to be your favorite comedian's favorite comedian. And he's here tonight live with us. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the man, the myth, the legend, Shane motherfucking Cashman.
What is yo? almost walked out without the intro.
Really?
I
Sorry.
almost like this is it. This is not for me tonight. I need
I'm sorry, my bad, dog. I was trying to just let things happen.
had to hear it.
Had to hear it.
Had to hear it. What's good, guys? Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you for coming, man.
Yeah.
You go first, Pro, because you know me. I'm about to throw up all over this, and I'm trying to
Yeah, I see you, man.
discipline.
You're
So
go ahead, man. Get your brown paper bag. You know what I'm saying? Palms are sweaty. Your knees are weak. Mom spaghetti. You know what I'm saying? You had dinner with mom tonight. Yeah, it was mom spaghetti. Yeah.
it was actually lasagna, believe it or
Oh,
not. Mom makes
hey,
a hell of lasagna. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Anyway,
brother Cashman, man. Appreciate you for coming on, man. It's good to wind down on a good Sunday, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Man, I mean, let's just real quick recap how much fun the Hotep, the Grifties were like the most fun I've had in a long time. And you guys made that night like through the roof. Everything ran smoothly. It was beautiful. I'm still high off of it. Like it really was a lot of fun. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you for taking the time out to come in and spend it with us, man. You could have been anywhere in the world, but
Yeah,
you was
man.
bumping it with us, man. And we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. Of
Yeah,
course.
and you absolutely made it fire, brought class to the joint, appreciated you for that. And man, my thought on it is, to me, I look at it like, let's just do it, man. I'm looking at it like a Krispy Kreme model because, for 20 years I've been doing shows, and you've been doing shows a long time as well. And I love the fact you understand being a road dog and what that takes. That's awesome. So
I'm used to driving. I mean, when I was 15, I was in minivans with a band traveling the East Coast on weekends, trying to get, $25 and sell some shirts with my metal band. So it felt like similar when I roll up to the joint in Jersey. And I'm sitting in the parking lot being like, I'm about to just go walk on stage. It's a bit of fear, a bit of excitement. And it was great. And now I'm addicted. So I want to do it again.
heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got plenty for you, man. Plenty for you. We're gonna test the waters for you, man. We're gonna see what you're doing in October, man. I'm putting up the bat signal in the air. We had homecoming coming up, homecoming season, football and tailgating and good times and food and music. And yeah, we got an HBCU experience for y'all. So let's do it.
I'm there.
Let's go.
June. Juneteenth. That's the June thing we're talking about. I'm trying to tie it into a big Juneteenth event where there's going to be actually a pro wrestling promotion in a Juneteenth parade that we can be in as well with them. So if you want to be in a Juneteenth parade with pro wrestlers, bro, I got you.
Obviously.
Oh, man.
How could you not?
I was born for that exact moment. So yes.
Let's get her done.
I'm there. We're
just checking off boxes on the bucket list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's just tell me where to go and I'll be there.
Amy says I'm there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's a party. Let's go.
Oh, we're gonna do it live, and then October as well, man. We got a lot going on. Pro has a lot of roots in the Savannah, Georgia area. So man, let's get to it. So talk to me. Born and raised on the East Coast, right? I want to start and do the traditional thing at first, just so people get to know you, may not know you other than just your work, right? So, born and raised in the New York area?
Yep. Yeah, I was like an hour and a half north of the city in the country on a farm with no neighbors. And I was like the only kid. I was the only kid on a farm in the area. So that was already weird for everybody else. And then I was on the East Coast. I was the only kid who liked only West Coast music. So it was just very bizarre. My whole life just seemed really weird. Whether it was the Chili Peppers or Tupac, everyone else was like, it's just Biggie. Biggie's all right. I'm not the biggest Biggie fan. I like Wu-Tang, but it was mostly like I just was connected to the West Coast, and I had this weird farm life where I was riding horses, and no one understood it. So I grew up there, and it was also outside of a military base, but I was the only civilian. So at every turn, I was just a weird kid because I wasn't military, I was civilian, I wasn't this, I was that. But it was a crazy place to grow up. I was in the valley, right on the river, a lot of history. And the older I got, the more I took advantage of the isolation on the farm and threw crazy parties. And that band I was telling you about started to play shows in the woods. How it goes. You throw a bonfire, you get some 40s and you play some metal in the woods, and
Yeah.
that was the life. That was the life. Yeah, it was fun.
That's why I
it.
did stand up, was to support the, jamming with my buddies, because I was
Yeah,
not good, but I could tell jokes. So
right. Yeah, my band, we were pretty good. We played a lot, but I would banter a lot between songs. We didn't have a very big set, and we were one of those metal bands with really short songs. So I had to learn really quickly to just like talk a lot of smack on stage. And I don't know, for whatever reason, always antagonistic. Even to people who would come see us play live, I just felt like this innate desire to just be an asshole. It might have been watching all of the Dean Martin roasts at like 2 a.m, like the infomercials for Dean Martin roasts, and like seeing Don Rickles and whatnot. But yeah, it was a great time. That band started when we were like 15 and went until 26, 27. So it was a lot of time playing local shows, traveling around. We were all from that same little town. So like boredom was rampant. So then also was drinking and drug use for a good portion of my high school and college career. I don't mess with that stuff anymore, well, at all. But that's all we did. Played loud music, traveled a good portion of the country, made not a lot of money, slept in really weird places, got chased out of lots of venues for being a little too rowdy. So that was, a really good learning experience for someone at that age on the road, trying to like make anything, trying to make any money by making music, which was, enough to just get us from point A to point B, and maybe get like some McDonald's, but it was a lot of squatting in places, whether it was New Orleans or Little Rock, Arkansas. It was crazy, but I guess it was pretty dangerous. I can't imagine my kids doing that. Like, I would never want my son, but I kind of do. But also, it was so debaucherous and at times incredibly dangerous in terms of like people shooting at you, people chasing you with hammers. I mean, I don't know why we got in so much trouble all the time, but that's just how it was. And I made
hammers. People were chasing you with.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. That was actually in Little Rock, and it was at a comic book venue in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the band we were touring with, they were like the headliner band. This is really small. We were not big names, but they were the band that more people knew, maybe 30 people in attendance, and they were really good friends of ours, and I sang on one of their songs, and I like started swinging from the rafters, and the ceiling collapsed, and no one was hurt, but the owner was really mad, and he tried getting us to fix the ceiling, but like, I mean, it wasn't just like a fix. It was like you got to be a carpenter to like put the ceiling back up. We said no, and then he got so mad he chased us out of the spot with the hammer, like swinging, jumped in the van, no joke, peeled out and got stuck in traffic because a shootout just happened.
Where is
like
this?
Little Rock, Arkansas, man.
Yeah,
Arkansas.
Actually still shooting it up outside, just that's whatever. But it was crazy. So it was awesome. Good times.
hell yeah, good time. Reminds me of stand-up comedy on the road, a little less rough but similar. Funny. I think, given it's the National Visibility Transgender Day, this story is apropos. However, the only time I got chased out of a club where I thought I was gonna like get my ass kicked, and I like had to get the other comic I was with and go, we gotta go, and we ran out of the club as I was doing and this was years, and this was like 20 plus years ago, but I was doing a show, and it was a Sunday drag show. This is before everything was crazy,
Right.
and it wasn't as big of a deal. Also, I was a comedian, and $100 20 years ago, comedian on a Sunday night was great. So,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, man. So, me and my buddy did the show, and they were like, the drag queen people sing, and they're like, they lip sync all their stuff. And I just came out, and I thought, well, I'm going to roast them. And I didn't realize they take themselves way too seriously for that shit. And I mean, you know what I mean? Think about it. They're so ripe for roasting, right? So I just come out, and I'm like, good Lord, that's some bad lip syncing. What is she, Chinese or just whatever? I was doing my thing back then, my Bill Hicksy thing. And I was like, we're serious about this?
Yeah. Is this not weird to anybody else? We're just
throwing
gonna-
bottles. Yeah, throwing bottles at me. And I thought, well, we got to take this shit like we can't take this serious. But no, they do. So yeah, I learned my lesson.
Yeah. To me, I mean, and this is a bad business model, but that's a reward to make the audience that. It's not a good way of doing business, but that is like I love that we got chased out. I mean, I'm an asshole because I broke the ceiling, but like there are a ton of times where we're playing and it's just like you can tell people aren't really feeling you or they're heckling you, and I will just triple down on being the biggest prick, and I try not to be, because I genuinely like to be nice to people, but I will reciprocate the badness, especially if I'm in a position with a microphone. And I got a band who's playing like the loudest, like most crazy music behind me. So it was great. And I guess that's a lot of like, where the comedians I like kind of like those people that would upset the audience. It's not all I like, but it is a lot of what I like. I like when people walk out of a place because they're offended. I like when people dance on that edge of like, is this appropriate to say in public? I think anything is, but I like seeing people react to that stuff. So that's kind of like the people I listen to a lot. And I was bringing up Dean Martin earlier because I'd actually recently remembered how much I watched the roasts as a kid. It's like a totally forgotten memory until I saw something with Don Rickles recently on YouTube, and it all just came back. Like hours and hours watching these stupid infomercials trying to get me to buy, a box set of Dean Martin VHSs. Dude, those roasts are amazing. They're still good.
Brilliant.
Rickles kills it, and they're also different, right? Like Dean's different. He had his whole character thing going on. Newhart was great, obviously very different from Rickles. So I guess I grew up listening to those types of people dance on that edge back then, even talking smack on Reagan to his face and being like harsh, and it was amazing. So I love that stuff. That's my favorite.
Well, and he took it, I think Reagan took it like a champ. We lived in a different time. There was a respect. Roasting is the highest form of comedy honor. Like in comedy, when you get roasted by your peers, it means you have achieved a new level.
Right.
And we used to appreciate that as an art form.
Of course. I grew up thinking that is the highest form of flattery. Like it's not really invitation. It's getting roasted. That's why we did a show recently with David Lucas from Kill Tony. That guy.
Yeah.
He roasted me on air. And I'm like, this is literally, that's the highest, feeling right there is him talking shit on my boots. It was amazing. So yeah, I think that it's people just can't take it these days because everyone has a thin skin. It's not everybody, but it's a lot of people, and they don't like being called out for their weaknesses or perceived weaknesses or whatever it's their looks or something, how they sound, whatever. To me, that is the best, and it's the most camaraderie. Like I grew up with a dad, this like crazy Irish dad, who just, you knew he liked you if he was talking shit on you.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe I have some issues from that, honestly, but it's true. And I could tell when someone came around the house and dad was polite, that person was kind of whack, and they didn't have it, the respect to get roasted.
That's fair. Speaking of that, man, I don't know, maybe a month, 6 weeks back, you were on a pretty popular podcast, man. You were wearing this funky blue. What? Why the blue hat? Don't do that. You're better than that. You had a blue stockingy snow cap thingy on. Come on, Shane. Respect yourself more, sir.
That is when I'm just looking like a mess, and I gotta have it on. I'm not combing my hair that day. I just gotta go. It's actually the work outfit. They make me wear it. Okay.
Okay.
You got to have a beanie on IRL, okay?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I know I wanted to get into something, and you posted, and you're low key about a lot of your talent, which is naturally very cool. Amy, that's my wife, by the way. She's very active in my chat, and she's like, "Give him a break."
Yeah, you tell him, Amy. Come on.
My wife is a third grade school teacher, so she is the role. Like you meet her, you're like, "Oh, that's what a third grade," So actually, she's such a teacher on that role. They're moving her to second grade, so because we don't have kids, so that's a big deal, that whole thing.
I sang at my third grade teacher's funeral.
Oh wow.
That just came back and this is a weird teacher. She had the whole room decorated in trolls. Remember trolls, those little scary things? It was very bizarre. But yeah, she passed away, and I loved her. So I remember like this real epic like memorial we did for her at the school, and we're just singing something probably like, I don't know, Whitney Houston or something. Some like Whitney Houston song. I wish
Did you ever know?
I had a mullet and buck teeth too. So it probably looked amazing.
The children are the future, you know.
That's it.
So to transition, art. You posted one time some of the art, and you were like, I did some art, which is really cool. Because I don't know too much about it, but I get a blue collar vibe from you. You know what I mean? You've never been a guy who money and then the idea of the class that money secures you into has been anything that ever meant anything to you, to the point of you also, and you currently are, and we'll get into it absolutely with your line project. You're making the decision to almost eschew money in a way, which why, Shane? But I get it. But you're like, I would rather do creative good work, and take that hit rather than, sell my soul, or my talent and work. But the art you did, it was like glass on wood kind of thing. And tell us a little bit about that. Like, what got you into that, man? Because that's just a cool left field kind of thing.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up though. That's man, my wife and I are probably still dating. That's like 10 years ago. At the time, I just left my job. I was managing a tattoo shop with my best friend owns it, and I just needed a change. And my wife Nancy was moving to Brooklyn. At the time we were dating, and so I had no job lined up, and I was going to maybe the next few months start my furniture moving job, which would then last 10 years as well as being a professor. But that none of that came yet. So I had this like weird time of no money coming in, and Nancy was a waitress in Times Square making more money than I had made even as a professor years later. So like she was making that money, and I was like, I gotta do something. But I knew I was gonna start moving furniture soon, so I wasn't gonna get anything serious. And I was walking down by the Hudson River, and there was all this driftwood, and I was like, this driftwood looks really cool. And I had a camera. I was just messing around taking pictures. I don't know much about taking pictures, but I like taking pictures, and I just realized I should try to find a way to put the pictures on the driftwood, because the driftwood is like super smooth. It was really nice, and flat, most of it. So I just came with this idea of I'm going to print out the pictures like really nice, like nice paper from like a real print shop, and then the one troubleshooting thing was like, well, how am I going to apply it? At first, I was going to do this weird like glue, and put them on, which looked good for like 2 seconds, and then the glue kind of seeped through the picture. So then I quickly realized I'm going to use glass, and just started putting 2 pieces of glass together, cut to the exact same size as the photo, drilling holes through those photos, and applying to the wood. And I made a lot of money for those few months before moving furniture. I was invited to do different shows. I was selling them on the streets, and it was, pictures I was taking while getting the driftwood. I must have walked miles, like dragging driftwood out of the river, then drying it in the woods. It was an interesting project, and I liked working with my hands like that, and maybe doing certain things with the driftwood to make it more applicable to a wall. And then I started taking like requests from people. They would give me certain sizes they wanted for certain parts of their house, and I was like, yeah, that's dope. So I would take like nice pictures, blow them up really big, and I was doing pictures that I think the biggest one I did was like 6 feet, like 4 by 6 feet. It's fucking huge. And then these people would pay to ship it, which is also a whole other problem. But I would leave the nails in the driftwood. It looked cool, but it was tiresome, which is hilarious to think about now in retrospect, because like I thought that was tiresome, but then I literally spent 10 years moving pool tables and armoires out of like the top floors of skyscrapers in Manhattan into a box truck, which I am definitely, my skeleton hurts today. Like I am feeling that so much right now. But yeah, it was a fun project. It was cool. It was like it was cool to actually make something and make enough money at that time to pay what bills I had. And yeah, at some point I like to go back to doing something like that, because it was a lot of fun to think about 2 very different things, like putting them together. And then yeah, at a certain point, and I haven't done it yet, but I was like, I think I could even make furniture out of this, because I was seeing like root furniture, and when I was moving furniture, I started seeing a lot more of that stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to make tables out of driftwood one day. I just think driftwood is an underrated natural resource. The river makes it dope for you. It smooths it out. It's great. And it's there. No one's really messing with it. So it was awesome. It was a great time.
I would think one of the cool things about it is every piece has its own character. And then whatever you impose on it, it's still only ever going to be that. You can't ever exactly reproduce that. Like, you know, you digitally could reproduce the Mona Lisa or something crazy or a sculpture. But what that kind of art is will only ever exist in that form purely. So that's very cool, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was cool to give people things and be like, this is where the wood was taken. This is where the picture was taken. You know, a lot of it was local too in the Hudson Valley, New York. So in that, you know, the river runs through that whole valley. So it was cool for people who had also moved away, who like got a piece of home, you know, and then I took a picture of a certain thing they wanted. So it was a fun experiment.
Heck yeah, man. Do you have any left at all?
No, I don't think I do. Maybe at my parents' house. They're still in New York, but I don't think I do. I think it's all gone.
That's cool, man. See, that's to me, that's groovy lost. There are people out there that have a Shane Cashman original. You know what I mean? And that's so cool, man. So
hell yeah.
If you can get pictures, get some pictures and post them from the people that, you know, commissioned you, or man, you're fans of that work. So
I'd like to see some of those. So some of those I froze my ass off, literally, like to get the wood in the dead of winter and also take the pictures they wanted, which is like, you know, it's whatever. But I can remember how frozen I was. And I should do that. That's a good idea. I want to ask them.
This is our universe, Peter Parker, man.
Yeah.
Just climbing up walls.
Right.
I love how you have a penchant for doing things the hard way. Have you noticed that about yourself?
Yeah, dude, don't even get my wife started on that. Like everything. I make everything, I overcomplicate literally everything. I don't know what it is. There's always a simpler way, but I don't know. It's why I think I don't like AI. It's right there and it's easy, and I could easily do that to make a lot of things, whether it's videos or write something, who knows. But I like putting myself through a bit of hell. I don't think you have to suffer to make anything, because I think suffering sucks. I've done enough of that, and I'm sure I'll do more. But I like actually going out there and feeling it and making it myself, you know, and you know, for whatever hell I might have to go through to do it.
Yeah, I actually was listening to Jordan Peterson today a little bit earlier, and one of his shows, and was talking about that and the suffering. You know, it's a big part of his thing. It's also a big part of the Buddhist thing, and that is that life is suffering, right?
Yeah.
And his whole thing is life is worse than you think. It's even worse than you think, but you'll turn around and see that you have the power to overcome it and destroy, you know, what you seem to be evil through truth and that kind of stuff.
It's not just Buddhist, Christian as well. I thought about it all day.
Yeah.
Sitting looking at a cross, which is like the symbol of the utmost suffering, right? And it's also about like turn that suffering into power and grace and strength. You know, everything. It's just gotta know you're going to suffer if you're alive. It's going to happen, and it's good to know eventually. Hopefully, you can turn that into a good. You know, and that's a really hard thing to tell someone when they're suffering. Although I was telling myself that while suffering, you know, for whatever reason. But you can turn it into a good, whether it was a driftwood or stories that I've written now that I, you know, only could have written if I didn't sleep in a car for a long time, or semi-homeless, or, you know, you name the problem. I was going broke as hell, like all those things. So if you can remember that and turn the suffering into something, you know, I think that's a great thing to remember. But again, I try to tell it to people sometimes when they're suffering and they don't want to hear it. And I get it, you know, it's like, I'm stuck in here. How am I going to change this into anything? But I promise you, I think you can.
Go ahead, Pro. Looks like you want to say something.
Nah, man, I'm taking it in, man. It's the whole sermon right here that the people need to hear. Like, for real. Like, you don't have to stay in your wallow. Like, you can literally come out of whatever your horrible situation is if you seek that grace and that mercy and understand that, hey, man, listen, somebody sacrificed a lot more than I have, you know what I'm saying, to have a fighting shot. So let me take that fighting shot with every breath in my body, you know, every fiber in my being.
Exactly. And like, I remember when I was a professor and I was already like realizing how terrible colleges were, but there was this weird thing happening where your suffering was invalidated because someone else's suffering was more than. And that's super dangerous. I think suffering's relative. You know, I know people who've lost limbs at war. I know people who are broke in their cars. I know people who are alcoholics. All suffering is relative. And then the people in these institutions like colleges telling you like, no, this is how you define suffering. Your suffering is less than this suffering. I'm like, that is only going to accelerate suffering, and it's fucking evil. You know, and you should not be saying that, which is one of the reasons I eventually had to leave that place, because it was making me sick being around that, you know, because I try to be optimistic no matter what, even if it's appearing to be psychotically optimistic in front of, you know, in the face of doom. But yeah, I think you just have to, you know, you're alive today. You're lucky. You're a very fortunate human being. Even, you know, no matter when you're born, you're lucky to have had a life, and just make the most of it. That's all we can do.
That's it.
Yeah, I was actually speaking with someone about that, about how our generation is weird because we it's interesting. I mean, if you can remember the VCR, if you can remember using a VCR, and now everything is streaming. You know, the next generation of children, the next generation of 20-year-olds will have no idea what a VCR was. Right. And it's just interesting, like you said, to be alive in this time and to see what's happening. I love in entertainment how I feel it's going back to oddly enough, if we don't talk about the scary AI and just where it is now on a positive kind of base level, work with me, you know, white pill. The beautiful thing now is that you don't have to go to New York or LA and be discovered by an agent and get a studio or a record deal. You can get, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 people that love your stuff that are willing to spend $20 to see you live and spend $5 a month to support, you know, content. And you're good. You're not rich, but you're an artist paying rent in your apartment while doing what you want to do. And you have genuinely interested people that aren't just buying your record because it's the cool thing to do at the time.
Yeah. I think it's the renaissance of like the death of the middleman. You know, a lot needed to understand that. I remember realizing that myself, you know, that was probably 8 years ago, summer after the Driftwood situation, because I was at that time trying to still publish the traditional route. I thought I had to be in these magazines, these newspapers, work with these agents, you know, and I did a lot of the publishing. You know, I had one really like successful year where I was like, I published a big story every year in all the places I wanted to, well, most of them, you know, like Vice or BBC or the Atlantic, Penthouse, whatever. I was like, oh, this is it, you know, and but it's really worthless, you know, and those places really suck, and the editors suck. So there's just like a network of middlemen between your art and then the audience in those magazines, because it's like the editor's going to trim out all the good stuff because they're worried about, you know, offending someone or advertisers, and then it goes in these magazines that not a lot of people are going to read anyway. You know, like I get way more people that at least view my stories on Twitter than ever have in a magazine. You know, and you think like, oh wow, the Atlantic or Vice. I think like killing the middleman and giving it right to the audience with whatever warts might be in your art is infinitely better than going through the traditional process. You know, and down the road there might be a chance where I have like a certain type of book where I would consider working with like a certain type of publisher, but one that is that would promote like creative freedom instead of like got to be like this. I'm open to collaboration. I like hearing feedback, and I can always get better. But there's certain places that were like, you know, well, there's certain places I couldn't even get my foot in the door because I was just a white dude, right? And I'd hear that all the time. It would be like, sorry, literally, we're not accepting white, single, straight white men right now. Like, oh shit, okay. And then I'm like, but my suffering's not that bad because the people I'm working with at colleges say my suffering is worthless. So, all right, I see what this is all about. Right. But like, if you could get your foot in that door, then it's like a system of like, we got to water this content down. Or no, we got to water this art down until it's content, you know? And like, I fuck content. Like the idea of like creating a piece of art that's going to just try to be as best as it possibly can for as many people is stupid. You know, like Kurt Vonnegut said, if you open up a window and try to make love to the world, you're just going to get like the flu or pneumonia or something. You know, like, you just write what makes you happy. You'll find your niche if you're lucky. And you'll evolve your art from there, as opposed to like trying to just appease everybody, which is, it's not good for, if you want to make stuff like art or comedy or whatever, it's never the way to go, you know, at least in my opinion.
Agree. Absolutely.
Right.
And what I find is that the middlemen they're tailored to keep the sponsors happy, or
Yeah.
whoever the orders are coming from. The middlemen are the ones who are the enforcers, if you will. They're the cops of the genres, if you will.
Yeah,
So
they're creative gatekeepers, and I really hate that shit. I hate it
It's-
like so much.
because who made you my boss? So
Right.
who died and made you God?
Right, and more often
Seriously,
than
though.
not, they're bitter because they didn't get to go down a route that now you are, right? And like that's fine. Some people just realize after going into it for a long time, like this isn't for me. I'm better as an editor. That's fine. But there is some bitterness, and I was, oh man, like that year I was telling you about that I had really good like success publishing. I learned so much about editors, and like I love editors, but there's editors in certain institutions, like in these bigger magazines, that are, like you're saying, so worried about this bigger picture of sponsors and their brand, which was so foreign to me. It was so foreign. And I guess the straw, there's two straws, I guess, at the end that broke the camel's back. One was one of the last places I wrote for was Pitchfork, that music review site. And the only reason I was even willing to, I set a goal out. I said to myself, I'm going to write a positive review for Kanye West for his gospel album. And at the time, I was an atheist, but I liked that gospel album and I love Kanye. So I was like, and they answered. They said, sure. They let me review it. I wrote a very favorable gospel review. I also like gospel, like even as an atheist. Like I'm Christian now,
Right?
Most of my life. I still liked gospel music when I was an atheist, like the Sacred Heart music from Alabama. I'm about to cry just thinking about that music. It's fucking beautiful. And so I took that knowledge of like the gospel I was listening to and applied it to what the Kanye record was, the Sunday Service album, and they published it. But I got into a bit of a fight with the editor because he wanted to put in things like, I called Kanye an artist. He wanted to say Kanye is a supposed artist. And I'm like, nope, I'm not putting that out there.
Yeah.
You know, and I should also preface this by saying Pitchfork used to be like the biggest champions of Kanye's music, right?
I remember, yeah.
He put on the red hat. He started singing about Jesus a lot more, and they just like wrote him off entirely, which is why I felt this impetus to then write a positive review for his gospel album, which is amazing. And so like I got in these weird arguments with them, and they destroyed that whole. This is funny. They destroyed that whole article, and I remember at that moment being like, I think I'm done, because at the time I was like, I didn't agree with Pitchfork a lot, but it was a good platform to try to be published on, and I write a lot about music. So then, real quick, I'll get back to the other straw. But fast forward like a few months after that was published, I was still so mad about how Pitchfork treated me. I decided to publish the original review myself, no middleman, on Easter Sunday. So it's the anniversary of that, which is also the same day that I believe it was the same day that Kanye performed at Coachella on that mountain that he built.
Yes.
DMX did the sermon and stuff. So the other straw was I was writing about free speech and free expression for another magazine, and it was about like listening to Marilyn Manson in high school and starting some trouble myself in high school. People looking at me a certain way because I dressed a certain way. I was a gothic kid. They did not like some of the things I was either wearing on my shirts, and some other issues that were going on with my friends and I. And I told that whole story also through the lens of being a substitute teacher at that school years later, where I was also like an authority figure. And it was also talking about Columbine, school shootings, Marilyn Manson, all that stuff. The day I handed my story to this magazine, a school shooting happened to take place. And they said, we can't publish this because of the problems that might arise from the story. My story was all about free expression and love of people, nothing bad. But their perception was, he mentions gun violence, we got to just like not show it to anybody. Totally antithetical to the whole story. And that's that day I wrote a thing on like Twitter or Facebook, something, just saying like, I'm done with all of this. I'm writing directly to people. I don't want to deal with it. This is insane to put that much time into writing something only for them to be like, well, today we can't, you know. And then it only got worse from there with COVID, because COVID was only a few years later. And then I have friends who have like kind of major record deals who are some of my favorite artists. And I was looking forward to their music coming out during lockdowns because I'm like, we need art now more than ever. Like everything's crazy. I need this music. And then their record labels were saying, we're not going to put anything out because we don't want to upset the people marching for Black Lives Matter. We don't want to upset, these people over here. I'm like, it's just a song. And it has nothing to do with what anybody's talking about. It's not even political. So all that combined led me to be like, well, I'm doing this on my own. And that's it. And then I'm going to suffer again because I'm not making any money, but I'd rather suffer and be true to myself than bend over backwards for these people that I have nothing in common with. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And that's crazy because it's like a similar journey I went down 2008, right? I'm a DJ by trade.
Right.
And was doing college parties, was enjoying myself. But then I started paying attention to what the music was actually doing in my community. I was like, yo, this isn't going to work.
Right.
And I went from 2006 2008 I was on my college radio station, which was like bigger than the commercial stations in the particular city that I was in, right?
Man.
All of our DJs on the radio station were either graduating or getting jobs at the commercial stations because we were that great.
Wow.
So I had that, that kind of foundation. So I moved back home 2008 and started noticing how the radio stations was playing this stuff that was really just ruining my city. The crime rate was up, the teen pregnancy rate was up. And I was like, whoa. We got to stop this. We got to do something about this. So I started my own company, started my own internet radio station, and just been, going since then. Like I could have went to the commercial stations. They wanted me, but it's like, no, you're going to make me play this stuff that I don't want to play. I'm not going to be able to put on these independent artists that I deal with that make great music. So you can keep that. I'll go build my own and I'll operate at a loss. You know what I'm saying? However long I got to operate as a loss, but there's going to become a time where the parents are going to get fed up. Schools are going to get fed up. Neighborhoods are going to get fed up. And I'm going to be right here like, hey guys, what took you so long? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Infrastructure's here. Let's go. Yeah.
So like, do you see, I'm about to be 39. Are we about the same age, more or less?
I'm 35 on the way 36. So I'm right behind you 2 years.
So like, I also see that in music for the last 10 years, although I like a lot of it still, but like, it seems to have gotten more degenerate as time went on in all genres.
Yes.
Right. But then like, I also then like, did that change the way you looked at music from our childhood at all? Like, do you like play that still?
I still play it.
Do you blame that music for any other problems outside, or is it way worse now?
I blame it because it set us on the pathway to where we are now. Shit rolls downhill, right? So, I do believe it started rolling us in that direction.
Yeah.
But at least we had some type of like containment field on how bad it was then. Now it's like, the field is wide open. Do whatever you want to do. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, wait a minute. Y'all are playing this at pep rallies for kids?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's like, because I go back and listen to a lot of the stuff I grew up with. And I'm thinking of how I was at 12 listening to West Side Connection or Tupac or Snoop Dogg or Marilyn Manson or Nine Inch Nails. I'm like, this is really flagrant. And maybe I'm just convincing myself of this. But it's like there was more of an art or storytelling to that. And some of it was like storytelling as like a warning, being like this. Whereas fast forward, I'm like, even if it's pop music from the late 90s, like Christina Aguilera singing, Rub Me the Right Way, like whatever that auto song is, it's like, or Oops Baby One More Time, like all those songs, they're crazy to think about as a young kid singing that, like standing in line at Dunkin' Donuts with your mom or at Pepper. It's wild. But like I do see today, it's so much more just, I think you said parameters and there's no parameters. That's totally it. Cause it's just like free for all degeneracy with no real art behind it, which is a bummer. So I totally feel that. And there's a lot more artists that should be played on the radio that are way more talented who might actually be telling a story. They get no love. So I think that's great, man. That's commendable for sure.
Man, thank you, man. Just gonna keep going, man. Last night I had a teen talent show. It was kind of like the same thing, right? It made me think about, because they sung those songs. Like, it was a kid who sung Usher. It was a
Mhm.
kid that sung, oh man, another R&B song. There's a lot of R&B songs being sung. And it was like, all right, you're 14, you're 15. Okay, well, that means your mom's about my age, so I know what's happening here,
Right.
but
Right.
we can't play no other Whitney Houston or anything around him. Like there's
Right. Like, I can't believe at my 8th grade dance, we were slow dancing to Genuine's Pony.
yes, yes, yes. Listen, so during your time, so it's twerking now,
Yo, that's crazy.
but it used to be getting served then. Like I tell people, it's like,
Right.
listen,
Right.
I partied in the 99 2000. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I remember when
Yeah.
that Juvenile song came out, and I remember everything around that.
Yep.
We was doing some things, but
Yeah.
It's a good
we
time for me
knew.
to come back in. Hey,
Hey guy, how are you? Yeah, we knew it was certain ways to to stop. Like you still had chaperones, right? Who was like, no, no, no,
Right.
no, no. All right, you guys are too close.
Right.
Now it's
Yo,
no
now
crap.
now the teachers are twerking.
Right.
They're trans
And
teachers twerking at the 8th grade
Yeah.
dance.
we're having
That's
family friendly
what's
transgender.
happening right now.
Jesus, man.
so when you were a professor, what did you teach? I was trying to get to that, but we.
Well, I mean, I kind of want to go down and talk about Juvenile for 2 hours now.
I don't mind.
But no. Actually, okay, I'll try to tie rap in with teaching. So I taught poetry, fiction, and journalism, and like English 101. And I would bring rap into the poetry a lot. Well, it would find its way into a lot of the other ones too, because they could review rap. But like for me, like I was saying earlier, the storytelling in rap growing up for me was everything. Like my dad saw me rapping Gangsta's Paradise, and again, I'm in yellow sweatpants with a purple turtleneck probably and buck teeth and a mullet on a horse farm rapping Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise, and he's like, do you even know what you're saying? I'm like, no, it sounds amazing. This is like the most amazing song I've ever heard in my life. It still is. So he sat me down and he was like, and he explained, what line and chalk meant, because I didn't know what that fucking was. So like, I always think of that. I always think about how I can deconstruct lyrics and the storytelling. And Coolio's song was like this is like a cautionary tale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then my dream as a professor was we're going to bring in different rappers and I would pair them with different authors. Like a Lil Wayne, who's stream of conscious, I'd pair with like a William Faulkner. They're both from the South. They both had really long, ridiculous, absurd sentences. So that's kind of like I was doing a lot of that. Because I remember like the kids weren't that much younger than me, because this is 10 years ago. I started 10 years ago, or give or take. And we like a lot of the same music. And I know I could make it more engaging if I brought in stuff we both liked, but also keeping it, safe enough for a classroom. I wasn't going to bring in the most ridiculous song. And then for like an English 101 class, I would have them debate who was more influential, Shakespeare or Kanye. I wouldn't give my opinion. I believe it's Kanye. And I mean that.
Of course. You're on the right podcast.
Dude, it's like, Shakespeare's amazing. I like Shakespeare. It's amazing. He created a lot of words, but like the influence of Kanye is on such a larger spectrum from like everything, whereas and that's, I didn't take that idea. That's not my own idea. I took that idea from like Oxford debate class, debated that years ago. And it's a really interesting debate. So like I would always try to find ways to merge things I loved with comedy as well, and rap into the classroom. But yeah, I spent like almost a decade teaching all those classes at 2 different colleges.
James Joyce, hip hop artist with James Joyce. This will be a fun game.
Yeah, it's Lil Wayne could go with him because how ridiculous he is. With James Joyce though, it could be someone like Aesop Rock.
Okay, fair.
Like language and like, but Aesop isn't as stream of conscious. I'm trying to think of who's a really stream of conscious rapper. Like Lil Wayne's freestyles back in the day were unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it's the James Joyce way of using words to use the words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
So,
like,
So
Like
so 2 Chainz, throw 2 Chainz in there.
2 Chainz
Yeah.
could 2 Chainz could do it. That would be so interesting. I love that, man. I love that. That's a great idea. But that was my dream, like being able to bring those things together. But yeah, who else you got? Who Hemingway?
Can we do beat poets? What do you think about beat poets? Or do you not like a lot of guys on your level don't like beat poets? So
Oh no, I love Kerouac. I love, Ginsberg's a piece of shit as a human, but amazing writer. I love E.E. Cummings. Augusto, what's his name? Augustine Burroughs wasn't really a poet. Well, he was a poet too. Yeah, I like all those guys. Just because they kind of like exploded language. Like I got Miro right here, who a lot of people, in like the traditional, more like independent right-wing media world, they hate modern art. And I get it, because they could also say like it was created by the CIA to deconstruct reality and make things ugly. I see the point. A lot of people want to say the same thing about rap music, but I also love a lot of rap and I love a lot of modern art because I just, for whatever reason, it speaks to me. But the beat poets are another group of people that people would say that about. And, Frank O'Hara is another one. I used to teach all those people, all my students, I would teach them beat poets because I noticed a lot of students had a hard time with the first draft or just getting any idea on a blank page. So to open up their like skulls to this idea of writing, I would give them Jack Kerouac's book. It's called I think it's just called A Notebook. And it's literally just like you freestyle. You think about what comes right off the top of your head. Don't think about grammar. Don't think about anything, like rule wise, and just put down what you're seeing or feeling and toggle back and forth between those feelings and observations. So yeah, I think they're very important, for sure. They're rappers. They're the first rappers.
Definitely. Well, and that's the thing that tears me up about hip hop is that clearly it is a New York originated art form. It's very cool that it comes directly from, like, you can kind of trace something that powerful and worldwide to a specific little place, almost like it's village, and that's really cool. But I love the West Coast. I'm always torn because New York has to get the love and respect, but come on, man. You know what I mean? With Dre putting the classic bass lines and stuff. I mean, it changed the game.
East Coast is amazing. I mean, we got Tribe Called Quest, KRS-One, Wu-Tang, Mobb Deep, all of, then like independent stuff like A$AP Rocky. Like I was saying, like I love A$AP.
Yeah, A$AP Rocky. Yeah.
Not A$AP though. A$AP. A$AP.
Yeah.
Like I love those guys. Busta Rhymes, that was like my favorite, of anybody. And Busta Rhymes was like my gateway into metal because this guy was kind of screaming and like a maniac, and also like Black Sabbath. Also, in retrospect, my gateway to conspiracy theories because Busta Rhymes loved, what's his name? The guy who wrote Behold the Pale Horse, William Cooper. And like his early records are all based off a lot of stuff from William Cooper's teachings and books. So I don't want to downplay East Coast rap because I love it, but for whatever reason, nothing compared to how West Side Connection made me feel. It was legitimately scarier, and their stories were scarier, and their cars were cooler, and everything about like just Ice Cube or Snoop and Tupac like was my absolute favorite until Outkast. And then Outkast happened, and that changed like everything because it was like a mixture of everything I loved about rap and then art in general. You could be weird, alien, it's like gangster rap at the same time, but you can sing. They just combined everything I loved. And I still think like Andre 3000, he's like my number one favorite rapper, even still, because no one really like does it like he does, although they try,
Right.
No one's
I'm
still
from
that.
the South. I'm from Georgia. So, Outkast, or really the whole Dungeon family. You feel me? Like I'm a Dungeon family fan.
CeeLo, 2 Chainz before he was 2 Chainz.
Yep. Future before he was Future.
Yeah, right. Like the Southern rap scene changed everything. And it was amazing to watch them Outkast get booed at maybe it was BET Awards or Grammy Awards. And they got booed because no one could touch them. They started a whole new sound. I listened to Outkast just the other day, and I'm just like, this is still from the future. All these years later, and nothing can touch Big Boy and Andre 3000 and the weird music they were making. But yeah, the Dungeon Family was just unbelievable. I just showed my son, like, like
Yeah.
Elo is just unbelievable, underrated. I was showing him his cover of the Band of Horses song. No one's gonna love you like I love you. The craziest vocal performance ever. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful songs. And then I showed him, for people listening who haven't heard this, or you guys too, Gnarls Barkley playing live from the basement. It was called From the Basement series. They played Crazy live in that basement. It's a much slower, more haunting version. Danger Mouse on guitar, or on keyboard. It's unbelievable. So yeah, Georgia's amazing. I love Georgia. I spent a lot of time in Georgia. I love Savannah. Been to Atlanta a bunch, and it's just a great place. And it makes sense that those kind of weird, crazy sounds came out of that place. It's just like unlike, it's its own little country.
Yeah, we're the best, man. Lucky number 13.
Yeah, sure. That's right. That is right.
Like there are 14 different places and directions in my head I want to go, but I want to put out the best possible show. So we'll go from there on Tales from the Inverted World. Did you do anything in Georgia or that area when you were writing, or for any of your research you've done?
Yeah, I spent like a year traveling back and forth to a town called Washington, Georgia, which is like 2.5 hours east, I think, of Atlanta. This town is where the Confederacy dissolved itself at the end of the Civil War. I went down there for the second volume of the Inverted World series. Someone reached out to us and was just like, yo, I live in this town where Jefferson Davis like destroyed the Confederacy, dissolved everything, and supposedly there's missing Confederate gold here, and there's some ghost stories. And I was like, all right, I'll go down there for like an article, and that was it. Literally my first hour in that town, so many weird things happened. Like a girl running out of a building because she said the ghosts are too loud. I mean, she might be crazy. I mean, I later found out she was crazy. I see a UFO that day. I still don't know what it was. There's something in the sky that I cannot explain. I spent like a lot of time asking a lot of people about it who believe in UFOs and don't believe in UFOs, but everybody agrees they've seen it. No one knows what it is.
Consistently? Like it's a thing they see there in that area?
For decades.
What did it look like?
So for me, I saw it in the sky. So because there's people who said they've seen it land in their yard. For me, it was a bright light, like an orb that was going up and down and left and right consistently. And it could have been a weather balloon, a helicopter, all these things. I talked to the DEA for helicopter stuff. I talked to like a guy. I'm spacing on the word of what his official title is, but he's like not a weatherman, basically. But there's a better word for what he is.
Meteorologist.
Thank you. And that guy hates UFOs, but he's like, yeah, I don't know what that thing is. It's there. I talked to then like just people who've been in this town who are like in their 80s, who are very Baptist, who do not like talking about certain things like that. And they're like, yeah, I don't know what that thing is. My sister said it landed in her yard. So I saw it a lot when I was in Georgia. I would go down there every like month for maybe like 9 months to a year. And every time I was there at night, I saw it. And not always in the same place. It would just hover and do the weird thing and disappear. I met witches down there. They were very bizarre. They do like weird blood magic in a battlefield. So like after that first day in Washington, Georgia, I said to myself, I have like a lot to write. That's why I'm going down. Because on top of that, the through line of that book is me trying to decide if there's actually Confederate gold there.
Right. Yeah.
I don't find any, but like we had the guy who emailed us, he became kind of like I'm on a big like Dante's Inferno kick right now. So Dante goes into hell with Virgil. This kid who emailed me became my Virgil into Washington, Georgia. And like I've got my New York accent. No one there liked me because of my accent, and also because it's a writer looking for the gold. And it's like Trump territory, and I don't blame them. Although we probably agree on a lot of stuff politically, they hear the word writer or journalist and then hear my accent. Immediately, it's like, we're not talking. So my dude down there, Clint, my Virgil, he's like leading me around, being like, he's okay. You know, so he got me access to a lot of people who would not have talked to me if it was just me. Right. So I spent all that time talking to as many people as I could. But what I was going to say is, I mean, at one point we got our lives threatened. Like I got this sick voicemail on my phone about a guy who's going to skin us alive like a dog. People were just mad that you're there looking for the gold. They haven't found it yet. Or like you might be asking their girlfriend a question because she tells you she's a psychic witch. And I'm like, well, I got to hear her story now. Like every time I turned around, there's a new story. So like the gold is in the book, but it just kept getting crazier and crazier every time I went down. So but yeah, I had already loved Georgia because like in my band, when we tour, we would play Athens and Atlanta and somewhere outside of Savannah. And it was always the most fun. You know, it was my first time having like, I remember this is in the band now, like 2006, we showed up to Athens, Georgia. Or maybe it was Augusta. I forget which one. And the band we were playing with, they were like these giant hicks. Just like these dudes look like warthog. The one guy looked like a warthog. And he handed me a horn with mead that he had just made and a backwoods. And my first time having it backwoods, I would then have like a year of being obsessed with smoking backwoods.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the life. I'm drinking mead, smoking these backwoods. It was amazing. So I fell in love with Georgia then. And then my wife and I love Savannah. I have friends in Savannah. So we go down there when we can. There's nothing I don't like about Georgia. You know? And it's huge. It's like, it reminds me of New York because there's parts of Georgia that are, you wouldn't think you're in Georgia. Like when I'm in New York, there's parts of New York that are so foreign to each other. It's like a different landscape totally. But yeah, I spent a lot of time out there for that book. Yeah, but that was like, that book's almost, I guess, a year old now. It's crazy.
Yeah, you do crank out the content there. Pro, do you know about this UFO that he's talking about? Have you heard tale of this, man?
I haven't heard tale of that one, but I've had my own experience with the unidentified flying object. My daughter's mom, we were on the way to a Christmas party, some kind of party, and there was something that was just floating in the air, and then it dipped. And I looked at her, and she was like, "Oh, you saw that?" I said, "Yeah." So you saw that? She was like, "Did we just?" Yeah, we just. And it was like, okay. And it was like, look, say what you want, however you want. We seen it together. We knew it was something there. It was no tripping. So
right.
Hey, man, we're on the coast, at least here, because I'm in Savannah. So
right. Okay. Yeah. And weird things happen on the coast.
Yes.
And again, remember, unidentified flying object doesn't mean it's aliens. It could be some weird secret tech that our depraved government's doing joyrides with in the sky. Now we don't know. But in my research of what I saw in Georgia, it brought me to Jimmy Carter, who Georgia did give us one of our worst presidents. Yeah. But Jimmy Carter, I think, was a good man, or is a good man. Somehow he's still alive. Somehow he's not dead yet. Somehow he's doing better in hospice than Joe Biden is in the White House. I don't know how, but Jimmy Carter saw a UFO in Georgia when he was campaigning to be governor. And his story is very similar to what I saw. The tree line, the way it was moving. And he told that story on the campaign trail. I think it was for governor. And people, I forget what organization it was, but some people who were UFO researchers reached out to him and gave him like a questionnaire. And he took it seriously. He filled out the whole thing. You can find it online. Filled it out, sent it in. And then when campaigning for president, said he was going to release all UFO documents.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but the story is, and this is all rumor, I don't know, but it sounds like it makes sense because I think Bush Sr. is an evil man. So it adds up. But the story is, so Bush Sr. head of CIA, Carter's in office. Carter supposedly goes to him and goes, I want to release UFOs. And whatever Bush said, like, just broke Carter's brain. People say he cried. Again, this is just conjecture, but Carter never spoke of aliens again. After saying all these things about you releasing documents, nothing in his presidency ever mentioned aliens, UFOs again. However, after he got, I'll say, kicked out of the White House, more or less, he spent a lot of years making furniture and writing poetry, and he wrote poems about aliens, and he even wrote a poem to the aliens that was put on the Voyager spaceship, and then sent into space. So, like, it was on his mind, you know. Whatever he saw never left him.
Yeah.
And I suggest everyone look that up because his story is interesting. He saw something for sure.
Definitely. And then he got that power and got it confirmed, you know, because at this point in time he could see everything. So he's like, I do it. Right. Yeah, you knew it. But we tell you see what we just did 10 years ago, right? You saw what we just did.
Exactly. I think that happens to all of them.
Yeah.
You know, Trump said about, like, he didn't want to release JFK stuff because you wouldn't believe it or something like that. I don't want to get the quote wrong, but someone about not releasing JFK stuff, and I'm just like, I'm all for transparency. I just want to see it all. I don't care if it's going to break some of our brains. Right. I mean, we went through a global shutdown. The only way to heal is to just crank it up. Let's get crazy.
That's it.
Rip the Band-Aid.
Rip it.
That's it.
Well, and
I'm not end anymore.
To shout out to Bill Hicks, it's that great Bill Hicks bit. He's like, I believe that every president that ever gets elected comes in with good intentions, and as soon as they get elected, they get walked into a private room in the White House, and a screen comes down, and it's an odd angle of the Kennedy assassination, but from an angle you've never seen before in the grassy knoll. And it's like, any questions?
Right. This can be you.
Right. Exactly. We can get to you.
Because, like, I disagree with Carter on so much politically, but I do think he went in with good intentions. And that man was, and like he had, like he gave a speech about the crisis of morality. If you listen to it today, it's like listening to a conservative talk about morality. You know, he had some ideas that were clearly dumb, but he still had like a moral center, and they did that man dirty, for sure.
Wow. So you mentioned that you've become a Christian recently, as far as a lot of people grow up with their religion. Fair enough to say, you know, and clearly, and you're out, you know what I mean? You're not, you know, you're not like, hey, let's not talk spirituality or whatever. So what happened, if you don't mind me asking?
It was just a slow burn of meaninglessness throughout my whole life. And, like, so my mom is Jewish and my dad is Catholic. Neither of them really care about religion. And then I didn't either, you know, and at like maybe 11, 12, I started being like, well, just reject all of it. I don't need this. It's ridiculous. Mythology means nothing to me. And then live my life that way up until, you know, I started to really consider religion as being important. Maybe 4 or 5. No, I can pinpoint it. I'm a liar. 8 years ago. 8 years ago, August, right? Because my son was born, and my son was in a NICU for different reasons, like jaundice and like some stuff in his lungs. And I remember that was the first time I tried praying, ever, right? And I was like, I'm going to try, because I felt so hopeless. I was so scared. My newborn kid is now in this glass box. He's hooked up to machines. My wife is a mess. She can't breastfeed right because of the machine and the wires. You know, she's distraught. And I tried praying, and I felt like a fraud, and it didn't go well. Like, I tried, it just didn't work. But that was like the beginning of me being like, I think I should try this. But and I should say, my wife's Christian, always been Christian, and for whatever reason, she married an atheist like thug, and put up with my bullshit for so long. But like, her patience and grace paid off, because like, I would go to church with her every now and then. At first, I really didn't like it, but I started liking going. I liked sitting there, and like, I always liked reading the Bible, even as an atheist. It was the craziest, most like amazing, important story. But that's all it was to me for most of my life. It was just a story that everything's based on. So had the son, started to try to pray. That didn't work out. And then I just noticed like how society was getting so depraved, and then thinking like, wow, man, society needs God. I don't need God though. Like I'm good. I'm good. Like I don't need God. Everybody else needs God, not me. And then had another kid, and then like I could feel more of this like I need to I need to set an example for my children of like a moral center, and like I'm skeptical of everything. You know, I think it's okay to question your faith. I I grew up reading Flannery O'Connor. She was a Catholic. I'm not Catholic, but like her whole thing was, I'm. It's okay to question your faith, and instead of being a hypocrite, right? And like so that was in my head all the time. Also from Georgia, so shout out to Georgia again. Flannery O'Connor's from Savannah. Her house is there. One of my favorites of all time. So I had that in mind, thinking like I'm going to go to church with my kids. Their mom's Christian. She takes it seriously. I'm going to like pretend for my kids because I want them to have a moral center and something to like a foundation for them in this very deranged world that they're going to inherit. That I think I'm literally telling myself now, I think people need a foundation in God. But like at that point, I'm like condescending. I'm better than that. Like whatever. And then just like things kept happening, like whether it was opportunities or just like the love of my children. It wasn't like as funny as and this is nothing. There's nothing bad if this happens to you, but there's people who are like at rock bottom, and it's like they turn to God, which is kind of like what I was doing with my son. But for me, it was like things are so beautiful and so like painfully beautiful that it's God. It's only got to be God, right? And the other thing that happened was, it's the truth, but it sounds weird. The Epstein news broke, right? And I was like, that is actually the pure evil. Like when you go after children, stuff like that. I remember it was a beautiful day, reading that news, being like, man, that's crazy. You know, I've been in the conspiracy theories for a while, or just weird, depraved things, you know, whether it was like weird experiments we've done, our government's done on people like Tuskegee, or what we did to Guatemala, stuff like that. Evil, right? But the Epstein stuff just seemed like a very specific, highest form of insane evil. So that was like, in my mind, if that can exist, there's got to be the inverse, which would be a good. Because in nature, there's a balance to everything. So that was another like thing where I'm like, all these things are slowly going off my brain because I'm super stubborn. And all that put together. And then we moved to West Virginia, you know, in 2021. And I knew at that point we were going to make more of an effort to go to church. I want to go to church. I still wasn't really feeling it myself, but I knew like I wanted to go for the kids. And we were like shopping churches, and we go to one church, and like I liked that pastor. It was a Baptist church. You know, my first day in that church was hilarious because Nancy gets up to like put the kids in like the Sunday school, and like this really old woman in like a nice outfit leans over to me. She's like, just so you know, like we're gonna have like a doomsday prep class next Saturday or whatever. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like my wife's a doomsday prepper. She's gonna love this. I'm feeling it. It's great. But then I just felt further from God in that church. I just for whatever reason I couldn't really explain it. I didn't really like feel right. Then I tried another church, and that one felt like I kept calling it like retail church. Like I'd go to like a Target, and there's like a QR code, you know, and and there's like dudes in like tight jeans with an acoustic guitar and a PowerPoint presentation. I'm like, well, now I'm even further from God because I feel closest to God in nature or with my kids, right? So that didn't happen. Then my mother-in-law came down, and she knew we were trying all this, and she was like, I found a church that you might like, and it's just like this old building. You know, I'm a history nerd. It's an old building, and it had these big, beautiful windows. The sunlight's coming in, and I like that pastor. I just reading the Bible. It's not like a denomination or anything, because like the other two are Baptist. It's just a Bible church, and I felt really good about that. And so after that, I'm still at that point. I'm still being like, I like going to church, but I'm not feeling like a Christian or even want to say that about myself, right? And then just like weird things were happening where it was like they felt like winks from God. So in June of 2021, and this is all, it sounds silly, I guess, in retrospect, or just saying it out loud, but the things that kind of built me up to being like, there's something so much bigger happening. So like in June of 2021, I just tweeted out or Instagrammed out, I'm going to interview Kanye this year. And then like later that year, I interviewed Kanye, right? So like weird things kept happening that were so out of my realm of possibility. Like I said it just because I'm listening to Yeezus. And I'm like, I love this album and I'd love to interview him. Not thinking anything of it. Things like that kept happening. And I kept being in these situations where it just felt like I'm surfing God's hand right now. Like I had a whole year of just, it was absurd. I couldn't believe the situations I was in. And they could have been really bad. Like I went through crazy bad situations too, writing stories people didn't like. And I was like, I don't even care because first of all, I'm being authentic to myself. I'm writing the stories I want. I believe in the story. Doesn't matter if people don't like it, whether it was Kanye or you name it. But like I was given this opportunity to travel and write the stories I kind of always wanted to write. And I just like, it was more of that, like, I've been put on a path now that I've always wanted. And then, there's also the suffering comes into play too. Like I was saying earlier, where like, I realized I've gone through a lot of crazy years of suffering and it will happen again. And even, recently for whatever reason. And now I have like God, but I'm trying to think. There's not like, it's weird because like I wish I had like an epiphany of like this day. It was when it hit me. But well, I guess I'm sorry, I'm like rambling, but I guess it was Good Friday of last year. I went to church and I just was like, man, I felt it like really like I'd never felt before. I just felt like connected, and having learned about Judaism growing up and hearing a little bit about Catholicism, there was something about like and there's no knock to them, if that's for you, it's for you. But like for me, looking at those, it was like a lot of doom,
Yeah.
When I'm looking at Christ and I'm in the Christian church, I, for the first time, felt like an immense hope and brightness that I'd never felt before. Right. Like it was like for the first time, I felt like anxiety washed away. And I felt like completely like a new type of confidence. And it was that Good Friday. And then, so that, I guess that was the day, honestly. And then I decided to get baptized in July of, last summer. So that was crazy. It was like the best feeling ever to like, it's more of like a symbolic gesture because I wanted my kids to be like, because I had already gone through the change of like accepting Christ and telling my wife, which was weird after years of saying like debaucherous jokes about Christianity.
Yeah. I'm with you.
She's like, who is this? But like, I wanted to show, my wife and my kids that this was important, and did it in a river, in the Shenandoah River, like the Civil War stories I was reading about while in Washington, Georgia. Guys come back from the war and they're like, I guess I need God, and they get dipped in the river. So it was amazing, and I love it, and I'm still learning. And the other thing on top of this, to just go back to the Kanye thing, which is so funny. I told you about trying to pray with my son, and I spent years just being like, how do you pray? Like I just couldn't do it. It was just like a mental block. I felt like a fraud. I would spend a lot of time talking to a lot of different people about what prayer was, and it shouldn't be that hard. But I was like very curious about like if there's a way. There's not just a way, but like I was overthinking it and intellectualizing it too much. So years are going by of me going through this process of learning what I think prayers, or just learning for myself how to pray. I meet Kanye, hang out in LA, go to church together. We become like friends for like a month. It's a weird, intense month of him calling me every day, multiple times a day. And what does he have me do? Write prayers. So now my favorite artist of all time is calling me to write prayers for him. And I'm just now at like the tail end of 5 or 6 years trying to figure out how to pray. And so now I'm writing prayers, and then this dude is workshopping my prayers, right? I'm not saying like I learned how to pray exactly through that, but it was like prayer boot camp. And because like I'm also writing lyrics for him, and like on speakerphone in his car. So it's like art and lyrics, and we're talking about all this stuff and politics. But at the baseline of everything was like prayer. And it was, so I thought of that because I still consider myself a baby Christian, which is what Ye would have called himself at the beginning of this whole, the phase he was in with like Jesus and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the story. It's crazy. But it's amazing. And I love it. I go to 2 churches now because I'm like a Christian junkie. I go to we go to a bigger church because they have a better Sunday school program, and we're trying to grow a smaller church, that old one I was telling you about. But I like going. I love reading the Bible now, and learning about the New Testament more. And it just brings me immense hope, and has become like the only anchor in a sea of despair and absurdity that our society has become. And I still have questions, and I'm like skeptical of things, and like I like talking to pastors about it, but I love that stuff, and I love going through those conversations with those people, and they disagree on things, So it all comes back to your faith and how you're going to deal with it, and reading the book and knowing scripture as best you can. But and my kids now love it, and I hope they stick with it. But it's very possible, they might fall away from faith in a similar way I did. But I'm just hoping we have a foundation there for them, and that they can withstand this crazy world with that foundation. And that's all I can hope for.
So with that being said, right, because I dived into it today, and I'm actually quite impressed. Like, I heard everybody talking about it, and just some things I just don't dive into when they talk about it. But the God Bless the USA Bible, right?
Yeah.
And talking about the foundation and having a good foundation for kids. I'm going to get a copy just to see what it is.
Yep.
But they have it's the course from God Bless the USA. It's the Declaration of Independence. It's the flag.
Right.
It's the Constitution, and then it's a King James Version Bible, like in one bound, right?
Wow.
So I'm looking at that and I'm like, yo, if anything, that's what the citizens of this country need. Like, people are beating up on Trump, but like, they don't understand the Constitution. They don't understand the Declaration of Independence. They don't really know the basic foundation of morality, right? And that's what Christianity gives. And I have my squabbles with Christianity as well. But when it comes to like a good moral ground, a good case of moral judgment that's palatable for people to understand, I think Christianity has it down pat. So I'm gonna just dig into that myself. I'm just throwing it out there to the people.
Yeah. I think that's important. And like, in terms of Christianity, like, I found it to just be like the best blueprint we could ask for in terms of finding structure to chaos and suffering. Right. It's amazing. People can say about a lot of different things. Like, you mentioned Buddhism with Peterson earlier, Mike, and like, that's fine. I just have never resonated with anything as much as I have with Christianity, despite the squabbles I might have with institutions and stuff like that. But
well, and I'm a Christian. I'm an unabashed. Last night I was in church, and I'm a proud Christian, absolutely. And I think that's where other places fall short, right? Like, Buddhism they'll even say they're not a religion, right? I was going to say a couple of the beautiful things to kind of hit on that is, for instance, we love, me and my wife love 1 Corinthians 13, right? The love chapter, but it is such a great way for us to go about our marriage. Right. And am I being patient, and I'm being kind, that kind of thing there. 1 Corinthians 13 is a great base to work from Bible. In addition to that, I actually this April makes 4 years without alcohol, quit drinking. And, it was, through the help of God, and it was through going back to the church and stuff. And I was a practicing Buddhist. And the one thing I appreciate about that is the psychology you can extract from Buddhism. Long form meditation. I think that's something that's kind of been hijacked from us as Christians, is meditation, because the word has the connotation to it. Yeah.
I think prayer is meditation. Like, prayer,
meditate on God's word day and night, David said.
I think imagination, when used right, is like a portal to God. It's God's imagination. You're like plugging into God's imagination, right? Like, we used to have dudes building cathedrals and making the craziest, most beautiful art, because they're plugged into God's greatness, right? And then there's a legacy attached to that. And there's so much of that's gone these days because everyone's desiring content, and it's a flattened art content, right? With no legacy. It's like these houses that just grow out of the ground overnight that'll fall down in 50 years, right? Like I'm just seeing so much more power in what I'm hearing in church than I've ever had before. And also it's inspiring me in terms of love and patience and growth, but also in terms of art and wanting to reach, a higher level of art. And I mean, there's certain things in that book that are more absurd than the absurdists, like there'd be no Kafka without things that happen in the Bible, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's also Hemingway's cadence, his very simple, beautiful sentences were very much, I think, based on the translations reread of the Bible today. It's there's brevity, but insane power to every word, right? There's also violence, like you're reading Blood Meridian, like crazy violent stories. It's got everything, and also has like these, thinking about Mary Magdalene and the disciples not immediately noticing Jesus's face after the resurrection. Like, what an interesting detail to put in, and then you could talk about why, but I'd imagine it's a pretty shocking thing that a man you just saw get destroyed on this cross, put in a tomb, is now before you, not like a ghost. He's a man, right? And he says, feel me and stuff. Like, it's just every angle of that book, astonishes me. And like, I thought it was a cool book my whole life, despite being an atheist, but now going back and reading it, it's just, I'm in awe of it. And then I go to the Psalms. Like, the Psalms are just the most unbelievable like poems. Some of those poems are the most cutthroat poems ever. Like, talking about how, like, in the beginning, I'm talking about like antagonizing, like the way some of those Psalms are written about their enemies and their open mouths being open graves. You can't write that these days. Like, that is amazing. It's amazing. So I love it. And then, like I was also saying earlier, I love Dante and Dante's Inferno. I love Paradise Lost. And now, having read the Bible more seriously, it gives even more weight to the things I love, or paintings I love, like Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. Best painting ever. That's what the main cover photo of my Twitter page is. That painting, the three panels, and it's like, it's just the craziest. That was made in like the 1400s, and it depicts what's going on today, much like the Bible was written so many years ago, and depicts a lot of what happens today, whether it's interpersonal or between you and God, or false gods, disbelief, confusion, all these things. So it's just complete. Like, I think it was that Amy saying, madness.
Yeah. She said, why are there so many new churches, auditoriums with no art? And that's correct.
100%.
Yes.
No art.
You need art.
Yeah.
And light.
Well, and that's I love some of the ancient Christian art. In fact, the Jordan Peterson conversation I was listening to earlier today, and they were talking about the aim of a good mother is to ultimately fail, And I was thinking about our show tonight, and how you're a great father and you take that serious, and your wife's a great mom, and you guys are newer parents overall. And my mom was a single mom, never met my father, no brothers or sisters. So we have a different kind of bond, even though went out and lived around the world and stuff. We're very close on a different level. We just really are. And they talked about the statue, what is it called? Paita, of Jesus holding, or excuse me, Mary holding Jesus. Yeah. After he's broken. And that's what you have to do is hopefully train your child in the way they should go. And then they have to get out there and be broken on levels and rise to that. And that creates the character that turns the rock into David, if you will, or, and that's a beautiful representation we just don't get anymore.
Yeah, I think the goal is to just fail a little bit better, or a little less, bad than your parents did. There's something Nancy and I talk about all the time, is like generational problems. I've got a lot on my family for various reasons, whether it's addiction, or I was raised like I was a horse on a horse farm. I didn't understand what a normal life was, because I was literally woken up at 4 a.m. all the time to take care of a farm. And like, so I had a whole weird life that no one else around me had. And Nancy didn't meet her dad till she was 16, single mom, lived in an orphanage for a while in our area, went to high school together. And it's just like, so we're taking all these things that, we observed as being weird only later on because it was our normal life growing up. And now we're like, okay, so what are we learning from this? But also, you're going to fail no matter what. You're going to fail at something, So you just got to remember that nothing's going to be perfect. You're going to give them a good foundation. They're going to fail. You're going to fail, and the imperfections make you, I think perfect. That's what perfection is being open about all the problems that you got going on, observing them, working on them, and then just not letting them destroy you, what happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's, as somebody who's, had my fair share of drugs and alcohol and pleasure experiences, the brain dopamine release from the work is such a much greater high. A couple of things I want to say there. One, there's that. And then two, that's what I love about Christianity, trying to be a good husband and a good man now, more so than, ever before, at least. It's there's such beauty in the Bible with that structure and that power you feel, and power becomes a different thing. Power now is self-discipline for me. The ability to be a better human being with a clear mind and a greater desire to do better things. That and just, once again, power over yourself. That's the true power to me. Because if no other man can shake you, no situation can shake you from what you feel your goal is or your God-given goal. That's power, man. That's more powerful. Like Bryson, for instance, right? For lack of a better way. And the Grifties. Bryson changes the game in the room. You're not going to smoke around him. I don't drink, but I know people didn't want to drink around him. He changes the game. He elevates those around him via his commitment. And that is powerful, way more power than, whatever else people may consider power to be, in my opinion, because no matter who you are or what level, he changes you. You straighten up for him. And that's power.
I asked Bryce, I was like, do you care if I have a drink around you? I didn't. I ended up not drinking because I had to drive like 45 minutes after. But no, I like that though. I like when being around people that you're like, I shouldn't curse. And I still curse. I've been a lot better about my cursing, but like it's gonna take a while. I used to be a pirate. But like with Bryson, that is hilarious. I love that. And I actually had a good conversation with Bryson at the Grifties because I was asking him about denominations and like going to church. He was saying he doesn't really go to church just because and I agree with this, a lot of churches have man-made decrees, right? That it should just be God, that's it. I don't have that, but I get his point. I don't have that in our church, I'm saying. But I was telling him, the other reason I think it's important to go to church for me, the man-made decrees I also agree with though, is because I want my kids and my wife and myself to have a community where we can
Yes.
I didn't have that in New York. And then I still have some friends from New York, but I lost a lot, after I said a lot of things they didn't like during Black Lives Matter or lockdowns or vaccines or Trump. And, that is what it is. But we lost a lot. So having a community meant a lot to me and to my kids. Like I love seeing them have friends from church, and then in their daily lives throughout the week, God's a part of it. It's not just like Sunday, you go to church and that's it. It's like the weeks leading up to church, right? We're talking about me and my son, he's about to be 8. We talk about the gospel. We go through different stories every night, because I'm learning again. Technically, he's been a Christian longer than me because he said he believed in Jesus a year before me. So he's teaching me, right? And he's very excited about it. So that's one of the things about going to church that I really do like. Eventually, once I found a place that I like, I just couldn't. Those first few churches just weren't cutting it,
Well, Proverbs, by the way, for on your son's level, this is why I love Proverbs, is that it is so profound in that the simplest couple of verses can on their face be great advice, but you dig into it and it's brilliance, man. And King Solomon was brilliant, and just that whole story and idea is a beautiful ride. And I'm in there right now currently.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love going through those stories and trying to apply them to even my son's life. Whether it's Moses being nervous to talk, My son, unfortunately, inherited a lot of the nerves I had growing up, like stage fright. He plays piano, and we had like a recital recently, and he got crazy nervous. I knew he'd be nervous, but leading up, we talked about Moses, or like Jonah running away because he doesn't want to deal with
Right.
it, and then seeing him apply that, and then once he's there at the piano and hits his first note, it's dope, and his confidence is there, and then all the anxiety goes away. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to see your children reliving in their own ways of things you went through, and it's like healing for you because you're now detached from it. But also, it's crazy. You remember how much it affected you at that age, and you remember the weight of that situation, and then you're trying to have empathy for the kid. We're also like, all right, come on,
Let's go.
let's do it.
That is awesome. And it's funny as we're talking about that, it reminds me of the weird juxtaposition, and I know you'll be able to hang with this hard shift. But ultimately, I believe life is set up to break us down to the point to where we need our creator, our spiritual father, or ultimately we fail that mission and we lose. And I think that right now the government and the Marxist ideas that they're trying to inject into our society it's funny because it's almost like a bad sick version of the same thing, in that they're trying to get us to scream for martial law, right? And they're trying to get us to give up all of our rights and freedoms for their protection, for government daddy protection. And I think that's the thing, because I think to be a true far leftist, which I was for a long time, I was a Che Guevara t-shirt wearer, and I mean, I was one of those guys for a long time, Yeah, man, I could have fought with you about it until, I literally, funny story. I had a Buddhist monk friend. He was a good friend who became a Buddhist monk, and we would still talk from time to time. And that's, when I learned some stuff and, did some stuff, he was like, come to this retreat and check it out. But I remember I told him I couldn't vote for Hillary or Trump at the time. I was like, because Hillary's evil. I was a Bernie bro, right? And I was like, Hillary's a straight killer. And he's like, well, you're the Buddhist monk now. And he was like, well, you're stupid and you don't care about America. And I didn't know you were racist. I was like, bro, it's me, like me of all people. And it changed my whole, I was like, wait a minute. And it was making that mistake of thinking that the people I was running with wanted to be enlightened and wanted this information so they could make a decision based on everything around them. That's the opposite of what they want. They simply do not want to be challenged. So
no, they want to make the state God, right? Like they're all about false idols, whether it's Hollywood or presidents, you name it. They want to invert everything into bad and then tell you it's good and make you feel bad for thinking it's bad. It's totally insane. And they're building false God on top of that with the technology. Like this false, well, it's not false, it's actually omniscient. It's becoming what they think is omniscient, right? Like AI or spy satellites that can track everything in the planet at once. Like, go look up. That's a whole other thing with Lockheed Martin and their global mapping. Dude, we'll get to clouds.
I grew up outside of outside of the number 4 largest Air Force base in America, Midwest City, Oklahoma. There were, you grew up with that stuff and you were just told it was vapors. It was vapors from the jets. That's what you were told. But I'm saying I grew up with that. I'm used to seeing those things in the sky. Right. And then you move away and you realize, oh, it's not the same way. This is not what it is everywhere in the world. But just so you know, a little credibility back up there. I grew up seeing those things every day. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah, and those are bad. And but that's what they want. They want you to think all that stuff is good for you. Eat fake meat, cut off your genitals. Give your kid steroids or puberty blockers. Teach kids about sex. Like they think all that's good, and that is just that's what kills civilization. Abortion. I call it human sacrifice. Like I don't think it's
agreed.
Dumb word. Like I really do think it's human sacrifice. People laugh sometimes, like more like lefty liberal friends. But I'm like, no, it's no matter how modern we've become, we are just as barbaric as we've always been. We're just doing it now in shiny buildings with lab coats. You're still killing a lot of babies. and it's depraved. And I was pro-choice my whole life. I never even thought about it being weird. Kind of like how I never thought my childhood was weird, or Nancy thought her childhood was weird. It's so ingrained in the culture. It's like, why would it be any other way? That's how I was brought up. Then you step back and you look at it like, whoa, this is really crazy. It's like really crazy. So that's what they want, to destroy all of us. It's a demoralization campaign. And in that campaign, they will then replace God with their God, or, replace God, divorce you from God as much as they can, and make you keep doing awful, just sin after sin after sin, but saying it's virtue, saying this is good, I just can't hang with that at all.
Not at all.
And like when we go make friends with new parents, who our kids might want to play with, I'm pretty upfront with a lot of stuff pretty quickly, because I gotta make sure my kids are going to be around, people I can trust, and kids trust, because their parents, they're a reflection of their parents, right? And it's not like I want to shield my kids entirely from bad things, because they're going to inherit that bad world, and I don't want them to be crushed and surprised by all this stuff. But they're really young right now, and I'm building that foundation right now. So, I will wear my Yay 24 shirts or my Steve Bannon shirt, or whatever. Talk about whatever, you name it. It used to be like Tuskegee, with like more leftist friends, especially during Black Lives Matter. Like, okay, I can open you up into like conspiracy theories. You're marching for Black Lives Matter for the government you think you like. Well, this is what they did then, okay? But now, and I'm just getting like real deep into it with that, or I use Operation Northwoods a lot. This is first play date material for me,
right?
Like, I'm not. What do you think about these things? Do you trust the government? What do you think about God? What do you think about vaccines, food, all these things that I think are very important? Because it's another thing I've noticed is I can agree with a lot of people on certain things, whether it's God or government, and they'll say all these things, but they don't apply it to their lives. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but like, we do work really hard to live a certain way and also eat a certain way. Like, there's a lot of stuff I think is just straight up poison that people laugh at me about, or think we're a little too tough. We might be a little too strict with our kids on certain things, but I just think it's straight up poison. Whether it's the water supply, or food you buy at the supermarket, or legit salmon, right? Like salmon, half bug, bioengineered since the 90s, and I'm not trying to eat that. Again, though, no matter how good you think you are, you're still going to find yourself eating things that are not perfect. You're getting screwed no matter what. I talk about fake clouds. I think they're dropping aluminum out of the sky. I have no way of taking care of that situation, but I can do a lot of other things to help, detract from that. But we
Isn't
are
it chromium. Chromium detracts from aluminum. If you have too much aluminum, you take chromium.
I should do that more then.
Yeah, I think it's chromium picolinate is what it's called.
I was taking chlorella tabs. I don't know what's in that, but they're supposed to be really good for that. Like little green tabs, like it's like an algae type vitamin. But yeah, it's no matter what you do, just like trying to have your kids with that foundation, there's no perfect shield against the modern destructions that are rampant, especially in this country. So you just got to do your best.
Yeah, for us, we try to. Our main thing is source local. We're lucky being in Oklahoma because some of the biggest, beef and dairy farms are here.
Right.
As far as fish, you're right. It's very hard to get. When we were in Jersey, man, I made sure I ate fish as much as I could that was fresh caught.
Yeah,
but as far as our beef and chicken, local, we know the people who raise the chicken we eat. We know the people who make the honey and raise the bees we eat. So yeah, man, absolutely.
In West Virginia, we got the meat down the road. We drink raw milk. We have for like 8 years. The honey's down the road. So as much as we can, it's from people we trust, but you never know, because you got people spraying pesticides and it's just poison everywhere. We're in a poison.
Man.
But Taco Bell tastes like Taco Bell, and I'm just if you grew up on it, it's an addiction, man. It's like, can I do something? Can I have something, yo?
Oh, Taco Bell's amazing. I can't.
There's something about it, dude. There's something about Taco Bell late at night When like, especially like if you're just road weary and you're coming into town and you're starving and it's hour
Fourth
6
meal.
on the road or whatever, and you're like, man, I don't want to cook nothing at home. I don't want to dirty up a dish. There's something about Taco Bell that like feels
A 3 in the morning like Crunch Supreme.
yeah.
Fourth
Shame
meal.
on us.
Yeah.
Fourth meal.
Fourth meal. Yeah.
We live in a country that we're so rich we promote. I just feel bad for all the people watching American TV and they're like, fourth meal? These mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And what is fourth meal? And then you're driving home late at night. It's like, dang, I'm hungry. I want to. This is fourth meal. Okay.
No, I gained a lot of weight with a fourth meal problem. Like years. My wife didn't know I was having a fourth meal, right? Like I was driving home from teaching and I taught long classes and there was a Taco Bell on the way home. And I was like, I gotta have something before I get home. So my fourth meal was actually my third meal. So I was having a secret third meal, then having dinner at home. That added up real quick. And when my son was like a year old, I was telling myself, "Woo, you gotta lose some weight." So I had to cut out the secret meal. Finally,
heartbreaking.
I know. I feel so much, dude. I gained like 60 pounds.
Woo, yeah, no, it'll add up quick when you start eating that. Man, I met my wife. We've been married. It'll be a year next month as well. And I met her, a little over 2 years ago. And I was, boxing and gym and all that. Then I hurt my shoulder and I moved down to Texas with her for a little while. And then it was about just kind of working and eating. And I wasn't, and I got back on the road as a comedian. And as you know, on the road, you're eating chicken fingers and like if you're eating it all, that's the crap. So yeah, man. I gained like 60 pounds back and I'm back in my zone to get it off. But yeah, dude, it adds up so quick, especially the older you get.
Exactly.
Speaking of adding up, you've done a lot of work, man. There's a couple of main things I really wanted to get to about your work. I know talking about work is a thing, but your work is just so cool, bro. So there you go. But the first thing I wanted to bring up, because Pro is specifically involved in this kind of thing, is your Carrie Lake stuff you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how you were with her and you saw that, because Protocol is heavily involved in the Republican Party in Savannah, Georgia. And he has proof of fake votes and stuff like that. And yeah. So Pro, I wanted to, just kick it off, hand it over to you and let you guys talk about that a little bit.
All right.
His experience, yours, what you saw, what he saw,
So we all know, man, that the last, I would say since 2018, for sure. Like it's undeniable 2018 for sure. Definitely 2020. People argue, way back before then. There were some questionable things that happened with our elections, right? Like numbers were off, precincts were crazy, ballots were being stuffed in drop boxes, and people got to a point to where, you couldn't question it. Even when you found something on its face, you couldn't question it, and you were crazy for questioning it. So I got something that I'm going to show in a little while. But I just want to know, what was your experience in like working with Carrie and being over in Arizona? Like, what did you see, on that journalism move? Like, oh shit, they did it.
Yeah, dude. So I guess it was a year ago when I was in court with Carrie for her election trial. And I had met her the day before. We sat down, had a preliminary interview, and I thought she was authentic. She was nice. Again, I'm weary of politicians, but I liked her vibe. And she was like, "Well, come to the court with us." And that's what I did. I walked into the courtroom. And first of all, just on her, I always think this is funny. When we walked into the courtroom, she sees a mainstream journalist who I guess has been writing like really bad articles about her. And in front of everybody, she looks at him and loudly goes, "This guy writes fantasy." And I was like, yeah. I like that. Speaking about antagonists, right? That trial is crazy because in my mind, I was seeing proof that there was just complete debauchery with the election system. I mean, in the second day, we caught the first guy in a lie, like who was going against Carrie. He said it was all about I forget the specifics, but it was about the ballot print size had been off, and he made it sound like it was a last minute mistake. Come to find out, we all knew about it. We just didn't fix it. And what happens when you don't fix it? It doesn't read those ballots properly. Isn't that interesting? So that was just one thing. And then meanwhile, on top of that, like revelation, which obviously the corporate press didn't care about, we're also looking at the problem with ballot custody. Completely insane. It's like it's going to places we don't even understand. We don't know what's happening in some of these places. I tried going to one of the places that had custody for the longest, that printed the ballots. That was like trying to break into a prison. It was the weirdest spot. It was weird. I did try though, but and then so on top of that, I'm watching the corporate press report on a false reality. Like what Kerry said to that guy, they were pumping out fantasy. I'm sitting in the room, I'm watching a reality that I believe is objectively happening in front of me. We're talking about the ballot size. We're catching them in a lie. They're saying they knew, they didn't do anything to fix it. They also, to me, like this is subjective. I think they're full of shit. I think these guys are lying. I think it's clear as day that they're lying, and they're also really condescending. And they hate the voter, and they hate Kerry, and they're doing that thing where they're like, "Well, I am a Republican." Like, you're not really though. Like maybe in name only, but you don't really care. You're a Republican for power. You like status. You like your reputation, and that's it, right? Everyone else, screw you. Right?
Yep.
So I hated that the whole time. Like, well, he is a Republican, means nothing. But it means something to the corporate press, because then they can print in their papers that he is a Republican, which to them thinks it gives their argument credibility. But the Republican Party is so fractured, it's trash, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm watching the report on all these things that are fake or just totally they're reporting on it from a very specific angle. So the audience will see this, and then they're trying to demonize Kerry, because at the same time, well, I guess it was a little before this, but the press is saying Kerry is like the most dangerous politician, which is why I asked Kerry what it felt like to be a counterculture politician, despite being like a mom, in a pencil skirt. But she is, because she's saying a lot of things that are pissing off a lot of people, going back to what you're saying, for making people feel crazy, for questioning things that we're seeing with our very eyes. So I walk out of that courtroom being like, man, this is not the first time they've done this. Like they've been doing this for a minute.
Yeah.
And we're now like really talking about it, which is funny because the Democrats did talk about it. What was Stacey Abrams when I talked about it?
Till 2020.
Right. Hillary talked about it.
Yep.
And we all were like, meh. Or even before that, Elizabeth Warren literally put out a paper saying, don't trust the voting machines. Faulty. So it seems like it should be a thing that could bring us together. Like our elections should be trusted. Not having trust in our elections is very, very damaging.
Yes.
But like, Georgia, I remember seeing videos from 2020 of Georgia. Like when I had a friend in Atlanta, and he went to be one of the people to watch the recount. They pushed him out. They're like, no, you're not. You can watch from 30 feet away, and we're going to put up a thing to like, dude, insane.
Make it hard for you. I'm going to show you something insane.
Yeah,
because Georgia right now, we're the hotbed when it comes to the foolishness. We got the Fannie trial, which I ain't gonna lie, I think Fannie is out of here. It's crashing and burning right now because she did the MLK speech, and she brought race into it, and the judge scolded her about it. Hey, don't inject this. And she came out recently and was like, judge told me not to talk about it. Fuck him. You know what I'm saying? So many words. I'm going to talk about it anyway, and there's nothing anybody can do. And it's like, damn, Shawty, you wildin'. And then you got this dude who I need to say now, to all the viewers, everyone keeps saying that Judge McAfee is going for re-election. He's not going for re-election. He's going for his first election. He got in that spot being appointed by Governor Kemp.
Good detail.
He's a Republican. You know what I'm saying? He would have never made it in. And he knows that he's in a very blue area, and his ass is grass. So, he kind of did that too. Everybody's like, oh, he passed over to the appeals court. Yeah, he's also trying to save his ass. And he's also trying to get elected for the first time.
Right.
In a place he's never, ever going to get elected in. you know.
Right.
So, you know, that's crazy. But, you know, everybody's watching us with that, and they're like, you know, this whole case is like, oh, he called the Secretary of State and was like, find me the votes and find these votes and make up these votes, and he's
Right.
trying to steal the election. It's like, no, the man literally said there is no way, it is not mathematically possible for the things that happen to have happened, and I lost by right at 12,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Someone do me the favor and find the votes that they use. I don't care which system of cheating you decide to expose, whether it's the ballot box, whether it's the flipping of the numbers, whether it's the playing with the precincts. I don't care. Find me those votes.
Yep.
Well, Mr. President, I have said it time and time again. I have hit people with this, and I'm finna show everybody. When you go see Beanie Man, tell Beanie Man, hey, I see something in Georgia. So this is the this is our Board of Elections page. They have all the results from all elections. All right.
Yep.
So let me see here. Where is past elections? We got elections. We got prior elections. Go down here. You see this lovely page right here, guys. We're gonna go down to 2020. We're gonna go to general election. It's the statement of votes cast right here. The statement of votes cast tells you each type of vote that was cast during the election. You have the amount of registered voters, whatever precinct it is, how many voters they have registered there, the amount of cards cast, and whether it was election day, advanced voting, absentee by mail, provisional, and the total. All right.
Right.
I'm going to go to my favorite page, page number 10. This is where the magic happened over here in page 10. I ain't lying. 9 and 10. Now, guys, I just downloaded this today off of their website. This is straight from the Chatham County Board of Elections website. This is from 2020. And let me go back to the top before I get into that. I want y'all to understand that this is the statement of votes cast, and it says official and complete. This is theirs. This is for the record. This is for all the marbles here, guys. Page 10. Skidaway Island State Park, guys.
Whoa.
Registered voters, 0. No registered voters, but that's 1,599 votes.
Weird.
That
How
is,
do
dude. And they love putting it right in front of your faces, like for you to find, because they are so confident in their evil.
Yeah.
That they'll be like, put it out. It doesn't matter. And when they see when I'm talking as the evil people,
Mhm.
when the people see that we're doing it and they call it out, we'll just say they're crazy for reporting on the very thing we put out. It's just like when like someone like Lives of TikTok or someone puts out just a video of someone crazy saying something they said, and then they get mad. Like, you just said it. You're just mad that we're calling it out now. But you literally said it.
Literally
And
said it.
man, that is crazy.
This is one precinct. We have 100 and I think we have 140 precincts in Chatham County. 140 precincts in Chatham County. 159 counties in Georgia. So if one precinct in one county has a let's just say a 1,600, we're one away from 1,600 vote discrepancy.
Yep.
Right? How many counties does it take this to happen to
Right.
for those 11,000 votes to add up?
Yep.
It's really easy. So when the man says, "Hey, bro, go find me the votes," well, Mr. President, sir, I present to you 1,599 votes that need to be looked at towards your total of 11,000 that you need to show that something happened in this election. Right. And I waved this flag because I watched it, man. I lost my original Facebook account from 2005 from being outside of this particular office on November 5th, right? I was watching people, they were losing their Facebook accounts, and because they were talking about voter fraud.
Wow.
They said that you couldn't talk about voter fraud without physical proof. So my statement was physical proof to talk about election fraud. Fair enough. Free my dog, Bill Cosby. Same energy, right? And Paige was gone. Like, I put that up. I put my phone in my pocket. I went through whatever else I had to go through that night. Saw some BS happen that night. Went to go post about it, and Facebook was like, "Your session expired. Please log in." I was like, "What? What?" Tried to log in, wouldn't happen. Hit up my daughter's mom. Was like, "Hey, go to my Facebook page," and she was like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I didn't do nothing. What do you mean? What did I do?"
Wow.
"You're not here." "What? You're not here?" I'm like, dang, bro, that's like a 15-year-old page that is gone.
That's crazy. I mean, it's Marxist.
Yeah.
It's getting rid of anything that could subvert their power, and they do it constantly. You know, anyone who dares speak up, they can just eliminate digitally. You know, it's like for years now, they've been taking out people through character assassination after a decade plus of actual assassination, right? In the 60s. You were talking about JFK, MLK, RFK, all these assassinations. Then the digital age came about, and they were like, well, we'll make it so everyone uploads their entire identity onto the internet, and then we can just wipe them out. And then good luck coming back. You know, and I am a little worried that they're going to go back to the old blood model of taking people out because of how loud people like us are all becoming online and subverting so much stuff, and now getting closer to the election. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but like seeing stuff like that is crazy. It's crazy. And it's crazy that people still believe everything's A-okay.
Yeah.
You know, just like they were told to. I'm like, that's very dangerous. And we need to pay more attention to it because our elections, you know, should be trusted. But like, man, you know, I've been on this whole thing about Haiti lately, and the Clinton influence on Haiti, and Hillary going down there to influence a presidential election, and all those people. I mean, Haiti really does not like the Clintons for so many reasons. Yeah. But after that one election that Hillary influenced, they were calling it zombie votes. We had all these fraudulent votes. What happened? This is not a new game. This has been going on for a long time, and we're just now catching on to it. So it's going to be so interesting to see how this next election goes, if we even get to it. If they don't find a way to be like, oh, we're not having it now. You know, if they start a war or, you know, Project Bluebeam us with some fake aliens, who knows?
All those are on the table, man, because first of all, we're already in the November election in March. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, sure.
There's nobody else but Biden, nobody else but Trump. And they keep trying to inject the RFK thing. But like, I think after his VP pick the other day, I think he really just shot himself in the foot and the face with the same bullet. You know what I'm saying? Like his family has a thing about a magic bullet that just happens. Just, you know.
For sure, though. I mean, yo, back to your point though about being in the election already. I think our country's gotten so insane because we have been stuck in election cycles since like 2014.
Yeah,
it's been a decade of like not. I mean, growing up, it was like, okay, we're gonna get crazy for like a year or two, and then we're gonna settle down. You know, you may be the person you voted for one, maybe not. We're gonna do our best, go back to work. It's been nonstop. It's been Trump, crazy Trump, Hillary, you know, nonstop till we're insane. And then it's riots, then it's COVID, and all these things, new wars. It hasn't stopped. We've been deranged by politics. And politics is a disease that's infected everything, literally everything.
Yes.
So hopefully it like settles down after this, but I don't know if it will. Not even, doesn't matter who gets in. If Trump wins, they're going to try to pull some shit, and it's going to be ugly. And if Biden gets in, it's just going to be more constant destruction and demoralization. So it's like, that's another reason why I've turned to God, because it's like the only hope left in humanity is the hope that's been there for thousands of years now, you know. And no one should look at any candidate as some savior. If you're looking at Trump or Biden as a savior, you got a real problem. You know, you want what's best, and you should know what's morally right politically to the best degree as you can. But like, man, this country's just in bad shape.
Bad shape.
I'm looking back at like the 70s. You know, my grandfather was a cop in New York City in the 70s, and he would tell me the craziest stories about that city, which was bankrupt and filled with crime and fires, and you know, to a large degree, I see a lot of the cities in this country right now looking like what my grandfather's stories were in the city in the 70s, of just like it's like if Gotham, if like at Arkham Asylum, everyone got out, which we literally did during lockdowns. We let out all the prisoners. It was like, just go. And you wonder why shit's crazy, and that's also crazy because like I'm for prison reform. The prison system is crazy. Biden is a lot of the reason we have a bad problem with, you know, minor drug offenses in the crime bill from the 90s. So like, I do like the idea of people getting out of prison, but not like how they were doing it at lockdown, where we just let crazy people out, like Arkham Asylum, like some Batman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Shane, you're sounding like a lunatic. A fucking lunatic.
Yeah, dude. Bound to happen.
Well, no, it's which brings me to my next thing. You guys know I would never say that to Shane unless he wrote the book called The Fucking Lunatic, which is oddly feels like a first person perspective in a way. From your perspective. Tell us, okay, so this is one of the books, it's one of the very few books that it's mysterious when you look at it. You know, there are a lot of books with a lot of information about them and that kind of thing. And this book you have to crack open. And it's so, what's funny is it's one of those things where, you know, you talk a little bit about BLM and the stuff, like you just talk about everything that's kind of going on right now in some kind of way. And then responding to people and then what they're saying. And it's just real interesting. So I was kind of hoping you could put a couple of words to it to maybe help people understand, because I read it, I have it, I love it, but it's still hard to explain to people. You know what I mean?
So the first thing I ever wrote for that book is the first sentence in the chapter about censorship. I think it's called the censorship argument. And that first basically something I posted online, and I'm going to paraphrase myself because I don't remember it out loud, but it's like, I'm more afraid of people who want to get rid of free speech than Trump saying anything on Twitter. It was the day I wrote that the day after Twitter kicked Trump off. I literally got death threats from friends. I had a dude in the army telling me, like, I'm going to find a way to blow you up. I'm like, yo, I thought we were friends. And like, these people took it so seriously. In that argument, you know, I got called a fucking lunatic, which is where the title came from. But I started writing that book. So that day, the day after Trump was kicked off Twitter, and what I decided I was going to do was I'm going to start conversations, arguments online, and I'm just going to print them out and turn them into a book. Nice. But like, I'm going to change everyone's name because of privacy reasons. So that's what I did. Everything in there is a conversation I had. I'm obviously the fucking lunatic. You'll find that out when you read the censorship argument. But I just, so many friends were such in a frenzy over either BLM or the vaccines or Trump. And I was just like, I'm going to say one thing and see what people say. Some of them got really crazy. Some of them were like good arguments and conversations, you know. But that's all that book is a collection of like everything that happened from Trump being kicked off up until, I guess, the vaccines, people being made to take the vaccines, which is funny, bookended, because a lot of the people I was arguing with over, you know, a lot of the, this is just the truth, a lot of the white women I knew who were arguing with me over George Floyd were also, by the end of the book, saying it's okay for Black people in New York City to not go get groceries if they didn't want to get the vaccine. That's their problem. So I'm like, you went from being like segregation's bad, like police stuff, and protect Black lives, to being like, well, fuck them. You know, if they're not getting the vaccine, I guess they can't go to the same cafe as me. I'm like, you do realize, like, not that long ago, you were saying something that's very like different, you know, contradictory to what you're saying now. It was, to me, mind blowing. So that's what that book became. And then I made it look that way because I was also really doing research on Mao and Marxism. and his idea of Marxism, and he would put out the Little Red Book in China, which is like albums. So it's a reflection of that, of the way that book looked. And then the back is just I put blurbs on the back of that book, which are just really bad things people said about me.
I love so brilliant. Yeah,
I loved it. As I like being called. If you think you're gonna hurt my feelings by calling me bad names, like I don't give a shit. Like I'm actually gonna make it a blurb from my book, and that's
beautiful.
That's probably why you love the Hoteps, man, because it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Yep. We take all the negative stuff said, turn it on its head, and turn it to positives. And that's from the conspiracy theorist, which now we're just right and ahead of the curve. But things of that nature.
They're trophies. People saying bad things about you, that's a trophy.
Trophy.
That you think you're scalping me, I'm scalping you. That's that.
I'm gonna need a bigger case. So I would say I would describe TFL as a heartbroken realist who was fighting with every shred of himself to not fall into nihilism. Right? That's what it feels like. I'm really trying. I'm heartbroken, but I'm trying to approach my common sense views and outlook on everything with a genuine compassion for you people that are attacking me in nuts. And here's the thing. This is, unfortunately, as funky as this option is, it's the only option I have, because otherwise I'm straight nihilism, right? And then, you know what I mean? Yeah, so.
It could have easily turned to nihilism, which is what they were doing. They're nihilists.
Yeah.
They don't really, they're not calling themselves nihilists, but I couldn't do that. And, man, it was wild, because, like, before I wrote The Fucking Lunatic, I published a poem a year prior about, it's called I Will Not Join Your Cult. And it was the first time I ever wrote anything political. And that was about lockdowns and riots. And it really isn't like, I don't think, looking back, it's not that bad. But like my friends at the time, I had grown men calling me at midnight crying. Legit grown men. One of them had just had a baby they brought home. And I'm like, bro, be with your family. Like, he's like, I thought I was on the right side of history. I'm like, first of all, I hate that phrase. Stupid. Right. I mean, anything. Second of all, call me tomorrow. Text me. But they were so upset about me calling out things, or God forbid, calling out Obama, who I did vote for twice, and I am ashamed. I voted for him. I am, but I did.
Agreed.
And it wasn't until his last year in office, I'm like, well, this guy's a warmonger liar, just as bad as Clinton, just as bad as Bush, whatever. Just because I listen to Kendrick Lamar and so does Obama doesn't mean I gotta like him, But like, I had friends who were so upset that I had anything to say critical of Obama or anything that's in that poem. So that was like my first stepping into that political realm of, I'm going to say some things else. If I didn't say it, I was going to be sick to my stomach, right? I was just so mad. So I had a little idea of what it was going to be like putting out something political and then having these conversations online. But The Fucking Lunatic just became like a whole other beast. And I'm a bit of a sadist, maybe, because I put myself through this punishment of talking to these people. Some of them were former friends, some of them are still friends, but I really wanted to have a conversation where they could call me whatever they wanted, and I could get snarky at times, but I wasn't going to just default to being like, "Oh, you stupid," blah blah blah. I was really trying hard to be patient and bring them to a place of being like I was saying earlier, you're pro segregation now. You went from being anti-segregation to be like, you're a legit pro-segregation right now. And I'm making you say it. I'm making you say those words right now. They're like, I guess I am. Like, damn, dude, that's crazy. Crazy to me. Fucking nuts, dude.
The fact you're okay with it. Yeah. And once going back to the thing of the suffering to, especially to create art, the long story of that, but that was the suffering. Once again, it's like, I have to take this on. And it's the reason I work with Pro and do a lot of what we do, is because I feel like I'm going to become hobo with a shotgun. Otherwise, I'm literally going to be homeless with a shotgun and just blowing away purple hair trans folk. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to do that. So.
You need and they made it so they made you feel bad for even speaking out about it. Like we were talking about the election stuff.
Right.
I feel so much better. I'll lose all my friends if I have to. I'll say whatever I have to say. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I don't care, right? I feel mentally better now.
Yeah.
Years later, no, like I was so afraid of losing my job, losing my job opportunities, losing my friends, or going to a party and then having to be like, I keep so many things suppressed for too long, right? My wife is not like that. She'll just tell you whatever. And so, like, I wish I was like that earlier on, but I wasn't. And as punk rock as I thought I was, I could do that on stage. But when it came to politics, I was like, oh man, I don't want to go through that. But then 2020 happened, and like my skull opened up, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I got to set a good example for my children. I'm not gonna like have my tail between my legs and just say whatever they want me to say. I don't care if I'm going to lose a teaching job. I have to say this because I am physically ill at society collapsing in on itself, and that's it. And I'm much better for it now. And now we get to have these conversations, and everything's better.
Yeah. And you whenever you're in a freer mind state and a more honest mind state, you create better art. And
100%.
and you create better projects. And speaking of better projects, Kanye West is dead. What? Give me a pew 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 pew. Kanye West is dead. You.
That's awesome.
Or is he?
Or is it?
It is
So-
Resurrection Day.
For those that don't know, this is a groundbreaking project, right? It is Resurrection Day. Absolutely. So this is a groundbreaking project in its release. This is the first time anyone has released a project like this on Twitter or X solely and specifically first. Tell us, just talk to us about it, man. Tell us, what was your mind child behind it? I know you started writing it a long time ago. So, kind of tell us about the evolution of it and that kind of thing. And what's fun is we get to read, and as you share your evolution with us, we get to see that reflected in your work, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. So hit us, man. What you got?
So speaking of Easter, you can't have Easter without Good Friday. Kanye had his Good Fridays leading up to Twisted Fantasy. By that point, I was at I couldn't imagine like pre-Twisted Fantasy for Kanye fans. I mean, we already had 808s, we had Graduation, we had Through the Wire. It was like amazing. He could have stopped and been like, that's an amazing run. And we get Good Fridays. You were hearing amazing songs with a lot of interesting people on them. And on October 23rd, 2012, I guess it was, whatever year it was.
Shout out to my mama. Birthday,
right.
October 23rd. Sorry, go ahead.
He puts out Monster. I'm like, look, I really hate Jay's verse on that song. And I also really don't like Nicki's verse. I think Kanye's verse is the best verse on that. And it's an underrated verse from Kanye. The second I heard his verse on that song, I had this whole idea for a book. I was sitting in front of my parents' house. I was on a picnic table. And I was just like, oh, I see the whole book. And I started writing it at the picnic table. And it's funny. So real quick, this is all very strange. October 23rd. I don't know if he did this on purpose or not. On October 23rd is also the day he got into a car accident 10 years prior. So I don't know if he knew that, just coincidence. But I always thought that was interesting. But I remember sitting down and starting writing it. That first thing I ever wrote, which is really, really bad. I looked at it. I'm like, oof, got a lot of work to do. But the odd thing about it is Kanye in that first draft finds me and says, you should fly with me to like someplace. That's literally what happened in my life. 10 years later or so, I meet Kanye. He's like, yo, fly to LA. That's what started the whole thing. So it's like I wrote it into existence. But anyway, hearing Monster, I saw this whole idea for a book. I started writing it, intermittently over the years, always being like, that's my favorite project in my brain. And then I met Kanye. And then on our second day together, it's just me and him. We're in his it's like a hotel, but it's like a giant suite, and it's a studio now. And we're looking at the Pacific Ocean. Just me and him. It happens to be Jay-Z's birthday. So we had just listened to Watch the Throne in his car on the way to this place. And he's about to play. This is just funny thinking he's about to play like Otis, I think. And he's like, we're only going to listen to ones that no one listens to. Well, that's fine, dude. So we get to his spot. we're just talking, and I'm like, it dawned on me. I'm like, I've been writing a book on this guy for like 10 years. So it might sound weird, but I'm like, yo, I've been writing a book about you for 10 years. And he's like, oh, cool, cool. And I tell him the whole thing. And I, up until, now people start reading the first chapter, only my wife and Kanye have known the overall plot. And it was hilarious. He was like about to post stuff about it. I was like, dude, please don't post anything. At that point, he'd been posting so much on Instagram. And we had also, him and I had just written a Instagram post about Elon being a clone and Obama being a clone. So like we were just like riffing, and it was a crazy, crazy day. So it was funny to be like, after all the things we had just done, like by the time we got to that conversation, there were now articles written about the things we had posted on Instagram, like about Elon. And so like it was hard to be like, yo, maybe not that part, but he was cool and that was fine. But yeah, I've always wanted to talk about this whole story with Kanye, and like it's probably bad for the interview, but like I hate talking. I don't want to talk about the plot so much, but like it's a lot of it is what we'll find out on this week is the second chapter takes place on October 23rd, 2002, right?
Nice.
A big day for Kanye's career. So I'm stoked on this. I'm stoked to share it. And I decided, like, going back to the beginning, there's no middleman here. And this story's kind of crazy, right? I didn't want to see this filtered through. And I'm stubborn. I didn't really want to collaborate with anyone, which is funny, actually, because I'm going to go back on that. I will be collaborating with the audience. So they will be my middleman, right? If anything, if someone says something that interests me, I might use that to some degree, or like learn another idea I have, right? Which is something I learned doing with the Inverted World series on the volume 1. We serialized that through Tim's, like, one of his YouTube channels. And people would say, like, maybe give me a correction. Then I'd use that in the book when I published it. So I kind of like that idea of like the audience can help. Which in a weird way is also what Good Fridays were, for Kanye.
Yeah.
It was like, which is also like what his listening parties used to be. I can't speak to those listening parties now so much, but they used to be Kanye with the audience, seeing how an audience reacts, going back to the lab, making it better. So yeah, I'm stoked, and it feels good to finally be putting it out. I feel like a major weight is off me, while at the same time a new weight is there, because now it's like, wow, it started. Now I have to actually keep up with it, But I'm really stoked on it. The reaction to the first one is really awesome, and it's only going to get crazier from here.
Heck yeah, man. I'm excited. The new drop comes this week coming up, yeah?
Yeah, this Friday.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Making us wait till Friday, Shane. Come on.
I know. It's going to be a Friday thing. I want to stick with the Good Fridays. Although I missed Good Friday. I could have dropped it on.
I'm about to pull some celebrity BS here. You know what I mean? Watch this. So look, dog, Wednesday's my birthday, and because we're friends, email me that in advance. What do you say?
I'll try. This is the funny thing. And you probably know this, like when you guys, before you go on stage or get on the microphone, everything changes in the last minute. Like the thing I just posted 2 Fridays ago, I had that written. I had a good outline, all these things. Something happens right before you press play or press publish, where like I'm editing new stuff now. So if I could try to do that on Wednesday, I will. But it's like, I don't know.
No, I'm tripping.
There's something about that deadline last minute that I think I'm addicted to, right? And it's like things just happen in the last minute, which is just what will be daunting and awesome for this whole project. And I don't really know how long it's going to go on for. I know the size of the book. I know how many chapters more or less there are, but I'm just going to kind of go by the seat of my pants and see what happens.
That's so beautiful and cool, man.
Scary.
And how long is it? Do you know, like, what's your timeline on it as far as how long you're going to?
I'm going to go to the end. Well, I'm going to try to. And I don't know what it's going to look like chapter wise. Like in my head, I know how many there are more or less. But the thing with Twitter is like, I don't want to put entire chapters. That's why I've been calling it installments, because it's not like a chapter that I put out. If it were in the book, this would have been maybe half of the first chapter, right? So I'm trying to be respectful of audience patience on Twitter, you know, and like the aesthetically of like how long something is, even though that is longer than usual, because it could have been longer. So I don't know, breaking it down, what it's going to look like in the end. So it's kind of exciting because I'm also seeing now new things I never thought of that will be in the book now as I go along. So I think that's going to happen more.
That's so cool. See, and it's so rare that you get a living, breathing, because the book would look different, and it's going to look completely different than if you would have wrote it completely, excuse me, if you would have written it completely and, sent it to a publisher, editor, publisher, and put it out. Well, then that's what it is, right? And it's a monolith in that way. And not that that's not cool, but because you're doing this in real time, it's going to look very different as a final product. And then you're going to release it, you said, possibly after it's this part of the project is wrapped?
Yeah, when I'm done with this, I will put it together, and I have my own little press called Vulture House.
Yes.
Started in 2020, and that's a little beef I have with Kanye. I think he took my Vulture idea. That's me. There, people know, like, the font is the same, but it is what it is. That's what he does. But it's so funny because, like, if you go back on my Vulture House Instagram, all that font with the Vulture stuff was totally used on the Vulture shirts. But it's cool. It's cool. But
it's cool.
At the end, I'm gonna put it out through Vulture House, and we'll see. You know, it'll probably look a little different at that point too, because I will have listened to maybe other things from other people or had other ideas. So it's like we're watching. You know, I don't want to say this is a first draft because it's been through drafts already, but like it's an early draft that could change by the time we see it in a book form. But yeah, and oddly enough, I'm gonna also, I haven't said this yet, I'll say it to you guys. I think tomorrow I'm gonna publish another book on Vulture House, which is like my parody book. It's my parenting book. It's called Yes, Your New Baby is a Savage, and it's by Dr. Shane Cashman. I have a doctorate that I paid $20 for online. So I'm an expert on kids. I think I have it all figured out, and that will be available soon.
Nice. All you heard it here first. Dr. Shane Cashman releasing a new one.
Right. That book's going to be hilarious. It's pretty funny. It's got some really good advice in there for your children, you know, that I think all kids are the same, really. You can just apply the same rules to all of them. Totally. And all the experts agree that this book is the only book you need for parenting. So it will be there soon.
All the experts agree, yo. That's what I'm saying.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. They like it as much as they like the TFL book. You know what I mean? It was this similar level of praise there. So that's cool. So, and it's done. You're talking about releasing it very, very soon?
Yeah, tomorrow for April Fool's Day. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, tomorrow is April Fool's. I forgot. Right. See, you get old and you forget about all the wacky holiday stuff, right? So
I love that one, though. It's a great one.
Yeah.
It is.
Be careful of the news you get tomorrow, everyone. Be careful of the news you get tomorrow.
Yeah, every day's April 100%. Fool's Day for mainstream media. By the way, I want people to know, and it's very important to know, that Shane's book is completely crowdfunded because he has removed the middleman and chose to include you, the audience, in it, and do a living, breathing work of art that in print form and in story form that's kind of it's dark, but not in too dark of a way that you can't access it. It's interesting and funny, but in a way that you have to understand. I think, you know what I mean? You're very intelligent, and your material is smart material. So it's crowdfunded. Please do share on your Twitter. I was looking for it. I know you posted it before, and I know it's cringy, but please, everybody, throw my man 20, 25, 30 bucks. You know, I've made the commitment. I think everybody should make the commitment. For every installment, I'm dropping a 20 on you, hard 20. I think that's fair. I think if everybody that read it would just do 20 per installment, that would probably make you feel like you got, you know what I mean? You broke even on it.
Thank you for the support. And it's very hard for me to share even the link for Venmo. Like, it just feels dirty to me.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But like, yeah, the goal is if people want to contribute to the process, the Venmo is there. And it's amazing. People have been very, very hospitable. It's very nice. But like, I couldn't imagine even the title Kanye West is Dead getting to a publisher, right?
Yeah, never.
And this book is too precious to me to have anything changed because I'm that stubborn with it, with this project at least. So yeah, the help, if you guys want to contribute, you can find the Venmo link. I'll try to be better at posting it. But like, I was sneaky with it the first time too. It was like a little comment, maybe not even the first comment out, maybe the first comment after. Like, well, if you want to contribute, you can do it here. But honestly, sharing the book and liking it and all that stuff is just as much as the help, honestly. Like, because that was the other reason, not just not having anyone meddle with the art of it, but like, I have more reach on Twitter with a small account that I have compared to other people than I would have in these magazines, right?
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
There's things I thought were precious, stories that were precious to me years ago that would go to these places to die, that no one would read, right? And now with Twitter, as bad as it is for many reasons, I have access to like people just sharing, and that is amazing to see it move around like that. So shout out to anyone who's contributed and shared, liked it, because it all means a lot.
Heck yeah. And that's something I wanted to ask you about, oddly, about societies. I feel like we're always, especially if you're, more Christian conservative leaning, but you're also an artistic person. You get and you dig art. You understand that from the refuse comes some of the best art, and the beauty and the suffering and the German mid-century, right? But I'm just, what I'm talking about, that rough kind of thing. And the beauty there, I love that. That's inspiring to me. I like the dark stuff. I want to say Bill Burroughs, I think but I'm thinking everybody knows the guy who's saying everybody knows. Leonard Cohen. Like, to me, he was the best at mining beauty out of the sludge and grossness. But you have to have the sludge and grossness to mine that beauty out of. But then also, I don't want my society to be that. But art reflects society. So you're struggling with, Tucker's version of Moscow, which I want to live there, quite honestly. It seems wonderful. Let's be honest. I have a couple friends who live in Dubai where they'll give you a ticket for having a dirty car.
Right.
So there's that. But, okay, so I would like to live in a society more clean and in order like that. But I also understand the value of the refuse pile, of the, the funky New York inner city, or even, Dallas inner city, which is legit, I promise. But anyway,
so
what I'm saying? The balance. What do we do there?
I'll tie in Kanye to this conversation with art, because he's been a good challenge to me when it comes to art. But like, so when I went to LA, the first conversation he and I had was about degenerate art, and at that point he was considering himself a Christian, and I was getting closer to that. So we talked about what it means to make art that is degenerate. Where's the line, right? And I talked about my favorite art, like I told you, Hieronymus Bosch, which when people saw it in the 1400s, were like, that third panel is degenerate. But that third panel is depicting the fall, right? Like the legit, like, hellscape. So it's got to be degenerate. It's like when I was teaching, there'd be kids that get mad of me sharing Flannery O'Connor because she's bad people saying the N-word, right? And they'd be like, you can't say that. And like, I know, but that's a bad person, right? And they're a bad person because they actually are racist. And she's showing you it's a bad person by letting them say bad things. Like, really. And what does she do to that bad person? That person gets shot in the head later. And that's a horrible thing, right? And it's a very conflicted thing. All that is being done, whether it's Bosch or O'Connor or you name it. When it comes to some of these things, they're showing you the bad part of society or yourself, right? So it's like, it's a hard, like, it's a thin line to like kind of balance that when you still want to be considered moral with your art. But I think you have to kind of dip into this darkness to reflect it back on people, to be like, this is how depraved society can be. This is what evil can look like. So I had that conversation with Kanye. Then the second part of that conversation with Kanye was him wanting to rewrite the Constitution with degeneracy laws. And this is the conversation him and I are having alone the next day, right? And I'm like, I get it. I get that wanting to have a very more clean society. But you also realize if you write those laws, there's no more Kanye. There's no young Kanye, right? And it's like, look at what you learned from being young Kanye to get to where you are now. So like, and who determines what's degenerate? I might have a different definition of degenerate than someone else, because I've got Catholic friends who are way more strict on their art than I am, right? So how do you define degeneracy? I know what it is. And then fast forward a year to me in Miami at Kanye's listening party for the first time we hear Vultures. And now I'm being challenged with what I want to consume, because for the first time in my life, after defending Kanye for years, I'm seeing someone who's a degenerate, right? Yeah. Like Kanye's art to me right now is not good, right? I don't need him to make Jesus is King or Donda all the time. You know, it's okay if you curse. I get it. You could tell stories, but to me, he's lazy right now. And sonically, he sounds amazing. Lyrically, he sounds lazy, right? And that you could debate that, whatever. But the thing that I saw that was challenging for me, that was like a crossing of that line of degeneracy, in my opinion, is hurting the innocence of his children. Because he had his 10-year-old daughter on stage at 3 a.m, surrounded by blunt smoke, and Nicki Minaj rapping about some real degenerate stuff. That just a year prior, him and I were talking about your kids should not be near anything sexual. Your kids should not be hearing lyrics like that. My kids will not hear lyrics like that. They're not much younger than North, right? And now here she is on stage listening to her dad rap about one in the pink, whatever the lyric is, from Everybody. Right. I'm like, what happened in 6 months? As Bryson will tell you, Bryson was with him in Japan not long after I was with him in LA. Yeah. He was still into the Bible, and then something happened. I think I will answer that in my own way in my book.
Fair,
but I don't understand. Okay, so what I'm saying that with me being challenged by that is like, I love art. I think you can make some crazy stuff, and you can push buttons. You can be an antagonist. You can make vile art if you want to do that. The line is, if you're sacrificing your child's innocence now, then that's it. Now you're straight up degenerate, right?
Yeah,
like,
correct.
Dude, you lost the plot. You could be a villain again. You can go back to the Yeezus stuff, which is weird because you never really went back to doing your old thing. He's kind of like on Yeezus light now with this whole run, which is weird to me. But like, so I wrote this whole thing about that some months ago where I'm like, whoa, that's weird. That's not like, that's against everything he said as a parent. And you can do a lot of stuff as an artist, but if you're going back on things as a parent with a moral center, that's weird to me, at least. I think that's objective, but people will debate it. But people kept coming at me like, well, he's playing a character. He likes Andy Kaufman like I do. I'm like, that's all fine. But his daughter is in a very bad situation, and you can't take that away. And so people got really mad at me about saying that. And he just kept proving my point, though. He put North in a shirt that said, fuck something. Yeah, he put North in a shirt that said, take your dress off. I'm like, dude, his daughter's just a billboard now. This dude was crying on TV, talking about his daughter not being on TikTok with sexualized dances, not want to be around certain rap lyrics, not wanting to curse on Donda because he wants his daughter to rap the lyrics. It's okay to go back to cursing and say crazy things. That's fine. It's just the thing with the kids really bothered me, because I'm like, that's just a completely different person than the man I knew, when it comes to fatherhood. And we had a lot of conversations about fatherhood. So, but it's funny because like, I'll say this and there's a ton of people just be like, they'll be like, well, that's just Black culture. I'm like, you realize what you're saying, right? Like, that's crazy, right? Or like, I grew up that way. I'm like, that doesn't mean it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, you listen to bad stuff. I'm like, I know. I go back and I'm like, I listened to Big Pun rapping crazy things when I was 10 years old. And that's not right. Right. But also, I'm not showing my kids that. Like, they're not going to listen to Big Pun right now. Right. Maybe they're older. Like, I'm not showing them Bone Thugs and Harmony right now. I'm not showing them West Side Connection right now. You know, like I'm showing them things that are appropriate for kids their age, and things that are like, you know, maybe that more mature people listen to, but not with any bad lyrical content.
Sure.
Right.
So that was a weird way to be challenged by my favorite artist after having conversations with him about those very things. I'm spitting right now. I'm getting so worked up about this.
No,
shit.
you're good. Breathe it out, brother.
Right. Did Harley Pasternak get back involved? Is that what happened here? Like
Something
Okay.
happened, dude. I mean,
I got to ask about the theory. The theory is this is a much like the panel you were speaking about. This is a 3-album project, right?
Right.
Vultures is a trilogy, and
Right.
this is the low point, the beginning, the low, the darkness, then the
Right.
transformation, and then the enlightenment. You know, the hero's journey. So
Yep.
supposedly this is the low point.
Yep.
I've heard that theory. I don't know if you have any information to shed light on that with us, but that's the theory. Is that
I've heard that theory.
Yeah.
I said myself, the only thing that stops that for me is the kid part.
Yes.
And like, have you been lost? Are you so lost in your character of this trilogy that you're sacrificing your kid's innocence? I still, you know, think you can be redeemed from these things. I'm not writing Kanye off. I listen to Kanye all the time. I don't listen to Vultures because I think it's bad. Like sonically, it's amazing, really trash. I listen to Kanye all the time because there's no other artist that is as inspiring to me as he is, right? I listen to College Dropout or Graduation or 808s, whatever mood I'm in. He's got something that will inspire me, right? Just not Vultures. But like, I don't think that's the case because like from what I'm hearing, that might be on Vultures 2. It's just stuff we heard from Vultures 1. Vultures 1 is a very incoherent story. If you want to make it a story, like Twisted Fantasy has a story. There's an arc to it. 808 has to it. He did a trilogy in the beginning that had an arc to it, right? Vultures doesn't have anything. It seems like the kind of like no diss to Master P, but it seems like a kind of Master P record where it's like just a 20 songs that don't coalesce to anything. You know, I like Master P, but in No Limit, and a lot of those albums from that era that were just like a lot of songs with no real meaning. But to me, this doesn't have anything coherent. The lyrics are bad. Like the lyrics that people love the most on this record that stand out are just watered down versions of things he's already said. Like he's got Urkel lines. He said it better than Twisted Fantasy. You know, he's got lines about, you know, something about, what is it? Something about like fisting a girl or something, whatever it is. He said it better on Yeezus, right? Put my fist in it like a civil rights sign. You won't top a more insane lyric than that. He said it, right? There's so many lines that just seem like, are you that lazy? Are you that uninspired? Are you surrounded by people that are just yes men? Like, I don't get it. Because when I was with him, and this is another funny thing I got to say, I've been laughing about. I was with him for 2 days. I wrote an article that went like kind of viral about him. Everyone's like, this guy gets Kanye. He understands him. Okay. Then I spend like a month talking to this guy for hours on the phone. Okay. And then he goes away. I don't say anything. He comes back. I disagree with him on some stuff. I say something. Now all of a sudden I don't know anything. You know, they're like, they don't want to hear it. All right, fine. Because they want to defend him. And I get it. I'm so happy for his success. I knew he'd come back and be number one no matter what, because he's that famous and he's that talented. But something's off, and I don't think it's a trilogy. I think I think the most logical thing is he's uninspired and he is trying to appeal to a dumb audience. Because at his Miami party, he on repeat, he had Playboy Cardi, who I don't like at all. You know, there's a lot of new rap that I do like. He's not one of them. And they were playing like Travis Scott, which is like, all right, but like, I'm not a big Travis Scott fan either, you know? And now in retrospect, I realize that's what he's trying to be. And if I want to hear Vulture's music, the Future does it already. You know, like if you want to hear like, degenerate sex talk and people being like, you know, ego driven, it's already happening out there. Kanye used to bring it to a whole other level of lowbrow humor, high concept art, intellectual, funny, all these things that I don't see right now happening in him. So the things on Vultures 2 that I've heard so far, it just sounds like stuff we've heard already that didn't make the cut for Vultures 1. I don't see it being an arc. And as far as Pasternak, it is weird that he showed up in Dubai or wherever they were right before Kanye came back to the States. Honestly, I just don't get how someone can change that fast. I don't know, like in the real world. In my book, I have a pretty good idea of what happened. In the real world, I just don't know. Because like it's weird that you're that different now with your kids, right? He changes all the time. Every era of Kanye is different. But the kids thing is weird to me. I just don't get that. But he doesn't seem in the right mindset, you know? And like I know people who are in the circle still, and there are people who defend him and say everything's cool. And there's other people who are like, something's weird. You know, I don't know. I'll see interviews with him, like that recent one with is it Big Boy, the radio guy?
Yeah, Big Boy.
And like there's moments in it where I'm like, that's Kanye. And there's other moments in it where I'm like, that's not Kanye. And he just seems like in a lot of pain, you know, and it's going to be interesting. I do pray for him. He hates when people say that. I do pray for him. I know he's got his issues with religion right now, and they're very valid issues to have, you know, but I think his view of God right now is more of like he should be like a wizard or a genie, and that's not the way, you know.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it just comes back to him being surrounded by bad people, and I don't think this is it for him. You know, I think he's going to come back and do much better, and I guess we'll wait and see.
Bro, I know you're way into Kanye music and a lot into that. He was talking about Miami and the South and stuff. What are you thinking? I can see your brain working, bro. I want to hear what you're thinking.
It's everywhere, you know what I'm saying? Because you know, this is a guy who's actually had the conversations with them hours on end, got to spend time with them, and you know, as a guy who just loves Ye, you know what I'm saying? Just the transformation, the journey, the overcoming of the craziness, the triumphant stand on the mountain, the bullet knocking him off the mountain, you know, like just being on this journey as a fan, you know, to have someone who's also been on this journey as a fan, but who's also able to take it a step further and be like, oh yeah, got my phone number. Like, hey, look, here's the call log, you know, here's my timeline on my phone where we were traveling together, you know what I'm saying? Like to have that and just to hear, you know, his take on how I've been feeling, like, damn, bro, like he mentioned Sunday service, like that's how you know he listens to Ye, because like you have the Sunday service album, which unless you got the Sunday service album, you didn't really get the true Sunday service album. You got Jesus King, you know what I'm saying? Because it was Sunday service that was like them live, you know what I'm saying? Like they're singing. It was like I listened to that more than I listened to Jesus is King, you know what I'm saying? Because it was just something about that choir live, just that live recording of them. It was awesome. But like to go from that, right? The Sunday services, actually, you know, the church services, if you will, Sunday service going to now, which I have my points that I like and didn't like with Vultures. But my favorite part of the whole Vultures album was beautiful big titty butt naked bitches that don't fall out the sky, you know.
the drums on that song are insane.
Yeah,
insane, yo.
Insane. Freddie Gibbs' verse on that is insane.
Yes,
it's great.
It's but for that greatness to know that we just came from, you know what I'm saying, Selah, you know what I mean? Like it's just dang, dude. Like
I felt like I knew he wasn't in a good place when the video came out of him just cooking. He was like ranting, right? And they said it was during a session. And I think even he had Timbaland on like video call, right? And he was doing something, but he was here's, as somebody who knows about this stuff, and I won't go too deep into it, but somebody who knows very personally and closely about this, he was having a manic episode. The very first thing I thought was he's on alcohol and his meds, or he's missed his meds for a couple of days and
Right.
hasn't eaten right. Like, that's what I saw, was a man not well. And it wasn't like he was, ranting, like we do. It was that it was manic. And it was to the point of, and everybody around him was cheering it on. And it's one of
Yeah.
those things, we all know people in these situations, and it's that weird fame thing where somebody hits that level where everybody around them can benefit greatly by just being in their orbit. There is a vested interest. I don't even know who was recording that video, but whoever it was, I'm like, don't do that, man. Don't do that. Yeah, and I know you're about to get 10 million hits, and whoever you are, that you're about to blow up on social media and make a lot of money on Twitter because you're the guy who got this, 6 to 12 minutes of Kanye on a rant. I honestly, what it looked like to me was he had alcohol with his meds. That trust. It looked like that. So
and he hadn't slept. They'd been up
Yeah.
all night. They were partying. It was in Vegas. You had the red outfit on.
Yeah.
And he was talking shit on everyone there.
that was the one where he said, "It's God, Hitler, and me."
Yeah. Yeah. Dude. It's crazy because, like, I know he can get to those points. I saw him in person not go to rant level, but get mad, right? But, like, the dude is working on 1,000 things at once. Fashion, architecture, beats, what's for lunch, politics. I'm going to rewrite the Constitution. He said, I'm going to rewrite the Constitution in one night. And then, like, he would call and we would talk about, he knew I was like a rap nerd, right? Like, I love rap. That's my first art form that I loved. And we would just talk about verses. What makes a good verse? And so he'd call, and at this point I'm writing lyrics, and which never made it, obviously, because they were more like God focused and not about like sex at all. But like, he would call and be like, so what do you think makes a good verse? And I'd be referencing like Andre 3000 or Jay Electronica. I was like, let's look at Exhibit C, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, Off the Grid and St. Pablo are two of your best, most recent verses. He goes, every verse is St. Pablo now, every verse. So I'm like, I'm thinking he's in the mindset for just verses, right? I don't need that from him because I like him and doing various stuff. But like, when he's doing a good verse, there's nothing like it. Like the Power remix, like the Off the Grid verse is insane. All the stuff off Graduation or College Dropout. So we were really like locked in on what makes a verse good and like what is music, all this stuff. And then he disappears. Bryson will tell the same story. At a certain point, like, it's just literally off the grid. And then, so it's like weird for him to come back and be like taking like 5 steps backwards lyrically. There's moments that are cool and like there's flows that are cool on Vultures. Personally, for me, like Beg Forgiveness was my favorite. But I like the Miami version before he pitched down the vocals, before Chris Brown's vocals were pitched down an octave. I took the life out of it. Like that first early version is unbelievable. Some of his best work, right? But yeah, it was just weird. Be like, okay, so not only the kid stuff, but the words just sound lazy. And I know Bryson was writing like really awesome verses, legit, that they were working on. So I'm like, huh. And maybe he just decided to go a different avenue, clearly, in terms of flow and delivery or lyrical content. But I don't see, I don't know. I don't see any of that like standout verse moment on Vultures at all. But again, sonically, like those drums on Back to Me, that opening track, I forget the name of it, is beautiful. Totally beautiful.
Yeah, the music is still there. And one more time before we move on, because I know we got to get you going. It's been 3 hours and you have a life. Right here on Twitter, as you can see, Kanye West is dead. Shane Cashman. You got to look it up, fellas and ladies and gentlemen. You got to look it up. You got to check it out. Couple quick things I wanted to get to if you have the time.
Do it.
Okay, cool, man. I have 3 things left I wanted to get to. Really 2 main ones. One is small, and that is just the difference between, because you're clearly a journalist, but then you're also an author. And I wanted to kind of get an idea of how you approach those differently or
Right.
similarly, and how you feel one informs the other. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That kind of thing. And do you feel like it bleeds over and you have to show discipline there? Or is it just such a natural, different, route to take for
Mhm.
creativity or expression kind of thing?
Yeah, they're both like having conversations with each other, but I try to take a lot of the author muscles into journalism. I want the journalism to be about reality, and I want to write about real things. But then, like a lot of my like more like absurdist interior monologues will find their way in to the journalism because it's how I'm thinking about things, and I'm always putting myself into these situations and then putting myself in the story. So it's like a lot of first person journalism through my eyes. And like I also try to tell the audience, like, literally, at this point, I'm being objective. This is objective fact. At this point, I'm being subjective. This is my feelings. I'm in the story, and I'm going to talk from my perspective. And then also, like, I think about in my journalism, building out scenes like I would in a book, right? Because I want people to just read it as if they're there, like as if they're part of the story, because I think that's more effective, right? Like when I'm writing about Carrie Lake, I want them to be in that courtroom with us. I don't want to just be like very bland writing. I want them to feel it. I want them to hear it. So I'm going to look for like things I would try to put in a fictional work to make that actually feel like it's alive. I'm doing the same thing for journalism by being like, okay, what sounds am I hearing? What weird things are happening? What am I observing? All stuff like that. Because like I forgot who said it. It actually might have been Flannery O'Connor again. But she said something about, if it was her, about like you need at least like 3 senses on the page, or one of the senses on the page in your fiction. So whether it's visually or scent or something you hear, to make it resonate with the reader. So I'm trying to bring those things into journalism, but I'm stealing those ideas from like Hunter Thompson or Gay Talese or Joan Didion, Joseph Mitchell. There's a long history of like the new journalist types that I'm just doing that, right? Because that was most effective for me. That's I want to read that stuff, and then with the fiction, I'll notice that sometimes I'm trying to do those things, but I'm also trying to make it like more succinct than I would with the journalism in terms of like not succinct, with more brevity, because like it sometimes takes a little more effort for certain things to make more sense in journalism to get a full scope of the scenario, whereas in fiction I can be a little more like actually absurd or fun, and be like and leave more up for interpretation for the reader. So I'm like balancing those things all the time, but they're constantly informing each other, and I'm learning things from either genre to use in the other.
I love your journalist stuff is because it's so much texture. There's so much, and that's the only word I can like use. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I try to explain it to people like think about, okay, so I love a bacon cheeseburger. Go figure. White trash boy from Oklahoma. I love it. But half of the fun of the bacon cheeseburger is not just, bacon tastes good, good beef tastes good, bread, cheese tastes good. It's that texture, it's the crispy bacon, it's that, the softness of the bread, and then the fact that it all comes together and creates a flavor that it, you know what I mean, only makes when it all comes together. And that's what I love about that. You know what I mean? The texture and the experience of it, not just eating a bacon cheeseburger. And that's what you do, is break
Thank you.
down and slow us down and allow us to enjoy the experience of reading this news article, if you will. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's not for everybody. I mean, there's a lot of people who really don't like it, and that's totally fine. Like, a lot of people who don't like it too long, or it's like it's too intricate. And I just like, thanks for trying to read it. And this is how I write, and I really can't fix it. I'm always trying to get better, but like that's my North Star, is like, and those authors I left off earlier. So, I'm always trying to get better. And I do take things into account sometimes in terms of brevity when it's an article. But yeah, I write how I write, and you can take it or leave it.
No, it's awesome, man. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And yeah, fuck those other people, man. We don't care about them. They don't get it anyway. You know what My favorite George Carlin line that keeps coming up is, think about the average person in the world and how dumb they are. Now you realize that half the population is dumber than that.
Love that one. Yeah.
It's
Dude.
true. I was talking to Pro about some stuff, this public thing and perception and image and all of that. And he's like, yeah, man, but the real ones know and see. And I'm like, I'm not worried about the real ones. I'm worried about the rest of the people who have no clue what's going on.
Right. That makes it fun though, too. Like,
Yeah.
despite they might not like it, it's fun for the conversation. And but the people who like it, it's amazing. And I love having these conversations, and it's amazing that it resonates with people. And I put a lot of effort into those stories, because like the last year I'm putting all those, that's another thing. All those profiles are going into a book that's coming out this summer. And that's through Timcast and stuff. But like, that was a crazy year of me being in situations, good or bad, where I'm like, I have access to someone who's hated by various people. Right. And I wanted to give those people a chance to say their story through my like prism, So like, some hated people. And some of them who are like not as hated as others, like an Alex Jones, right? But then there's like Riff Raff. I don't know if you remember the Riff Raff, the rapper.
Yeah. The white trash. He made Fred Durst look classy.
I love Riff Raff. He invited me to his house for a week, and we just hung out. I watched him make music. He had a lot of issues with like Me Too and stuff. Nice dude, super talented. And so it's like all these stories are coming together for that book now. But they're all really precious to me, because it's like they have a certain public image that's hated by certain groups of people. Kanye, Alex Jones, Carrie Lake even. And this is my opportunity to show how I feel about them subjectively, while sharing objective opinions about them, objective fact about them. And it's been really fun to have that like conversation with people who really hate some of these people, and being like, well, did you know this or know that, or try to humanize them, or give them the chance to say something where, like, right from the horse's mouth. Everyone's got an opinion. You never talk to the person. I did. Hate me, hate them, but like, this is the other side of that story. So that's another thing I got coming out.
That's awesome. And in fact, people don't realize Riff Raff was very influential. It just reminded me of, there was a not great movie called Spring Breakers that came out, I want to say 2000.
2010, 2011, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say between 8 and 10-ish, I want to say. But it was called Spring Breakers. And James Franco, I don't know if he actually studied with him, but he said Riff Raff was the guy, the lead. James Franco played the lead, and it was a Riff Raff based character. Straight up. And he said,
Yeah, Riff Raff was not happy at first, because I don't think there was any communication.
Wow.
I believe somewhere Riff has a picture of like a storyboard from the movie that has his like image on it. But they made up, and James Franco did a video with Riff Raff.
Heck yeah.
Great. It's great.
James seems cool. And Riff Raff, honestly, when I've seen him, seems like such a cool dude. Like, laid back, and he's like, I get it, man. People bash me. I'm lucky. I'm not digging ditches. So yeah, man.
Riff Raff is legitimately an alien. Like, I have never met a person like that. He is super nice, super talented. We would be up all night in the studio, just like he's constantly making music, constantly. And then more famous than I would have imagined. Like, I knew he was big. We would go out to the gas station. Everyone knows who Riff is. People are like, oh my God, is that Riff Raff? I'm like, wow, I did not expect. But he's like that because he can roll in like the comedic circles, and then he can roll with like Bun B. Like it's amazing. And he's a really good rapper and also really funny, but he's also into like singing R&B stuff. I think he's underrated. As big as he is, he's super underrated.
Yeah, because when you're talking about the greatest talents, Riff Raff does not usually pop up in that top 10. But I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm just saying he does.
I know.
So that is cool. And what's the name? Do you know the name of that book yet, or
calling that the Year of the Pariah? Since
Year of the Pariah.
Here I was with all the pariahs.
Speaking of Perez, my man, my partner here, I love this because this is one of my main inspirations for hooking up with Protocol. As far as like, dude, I want to do stuff with you. Is a couple of things, and one was the, we connected through Hotep Jesus, stuff, and finding out he's a Black Proud Boy. Just, you know what I mean? And he was heavily involved in the mix, the J6 area and timing. And I was like, okay, I can trust you because you know how to be hated. I look for people in my life to work with who can be hated, because I don't think you can trust people who don't know how to be hated or that chase the love. I want people who understand I'm going to take a stand and people are going to hate me. It's going to cost me, whether it's financially, friendship wise, socially, it is going to cost me to be who I am. And I'm more than good with that. And I'm going to be that person. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, I've accepted it. I'm there. I'm with it. Just like shining my sword, or in this case, greasing my pistol over in the corner, just But it's the fun part of it, That's how you're affecting change of some sort, right? You're doing the things that are aggravating people who are, in most cases, comfortable with pulling the shroud of foolishness over everyone else's eyes, right? So it's like, I want to wake up the normies, and then I also want to give my family members who want to fight, I want them to be like, oh shit, bros is going, hell yeah, I'm going, like I'm off the deep end with it.
Yep, that's the way to be. I totally agree with it actually reminds me of something that Jay-Z said about Kanye. Kanye is the type of person to go over the mountain to the enemy and take all the arrows and then come back and report on it. I've always loved that, and I think that's a good way to go about life, honestly. Like, to be fearless. If you believe in yourself and you think you're being authentic to yourself and your morals, go cause that trouble, start that fire, and then report back to the people who were not, they might have supported you, but they didn't want to march with you. It's getting better now because we're finding each other. One of the good things about the internet, it can bring us together and have these conversations. But like at home in New York, for me, it was just me and my wife and maybe like 3 friends. And then it's just like the whole place is on fire for just words. For just saying words.
Just saying words. Now it's better. I can at least say on my side it's better. Like, I love it. Like, I'm look, guys, please don't beat me up for saying this, but I have to say it. Biden was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. You know what I mean? Not saying, economically, I'm not feeling a pinch or any of that, but just in the sense of trying to show my family what was really going on. And it was like, oh, you're tripping, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're this, you're that. And then we go through 4 years of Biden, and they're like, oh shit, you bro, you was right. Hey, I'm sorry. What do I need to do this time? And it's like, okay, your eyes are open now. This is going to feel like a water spigot, but I have to turn it on because I need you to catch up. So let me get the little eye opener clamps, you know what I'm saying, and get you some eye drops.
Clockwork Orange style.
We're gonna have to pour this into you because we don't have a lot of time. And like I'm saying today.
Because I've been saying, like, COVID was a blessing.
Yes.
Right? Like, for me personally, and my life changed drastically because, like, we moved out of New York, finally. A lot of things got better. But, like, overall, for a lot of people, they started to be, oh, like, what is going on in the world? This is crazy. How are they going to lock us down? And it woke a lot of people up to a lot of the deranged, tyrannical politicians that were making no sense, and watching your neighbors lose their minds. So, as bad as it was, first of all, businesses, overdoses, suicide, it's horrible. They and I think those people need to be held accountable in some major ways. But look how drastically different society is. Like, we won't go back. Like, more people have woken up to the nonsense, and I guess we'll see, because who knows what they're going to pull out of the bag next. But I know too many people, even some of the people who fought me the most in that book, The Fucking Lunatic, have now come around and are like, damn, dude, like, You know, they haven't said I was right, but
Yeah.
I know they're thinking it. And I know
They
who they're
haven't.
listening to.
They don't call you wrong anymore. At least they're not
Yeah.
saying you're right, but they're not saying you're wrong either. And that is a perfect. Sorry,
For
go ahead.
sure. No, I was just saying, and like one of those people is like a huge Sam Tripoli fan now. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, beautiful.
That is the perfect transition because I wanted to hit the cloud. I really wanted to talk a little bit about predator poachers. We're not going to have time, clearly, because I don't want this to be a 6-hour show. I will say, in being a fan of your work, I would say that to me seemed to have one of the biggest effects of anything you did as far as like on you, the person, especially watching your what do they call the Friday morning show that you do with
the Culture War.
Yeah, Culture War show. You really got to break that down, and I saw a man affected. I saw a man that was changed. You know what I mean? In that you looked at something differently than when you did before, doing your work as a journalist. That was interesting and powerful to me.
Dude, that story changed my life. I mean, you think the world is evil, and then I'm looking at a literal demon in the face. Like, Alex Rosen, who goes around catching predators, he's a young kid from Texas.
Yeah, he's like young. 25 or something. Yeah,
if that, right? And so we somehow linked up on Twitter, and he was like, "I'll be in Ohio." And I was like, "All right, I'll just drive there. I'll spend a weekend catching predators." They have a decoy girl who's like in her 20s. She looks very young, has a lisp, pretends to be 11 or 12, and these dudes reach out to her constantly. And the first big catch we did was in Ohio. I couldn't believe it was going to happen, honestly. I just couldn't believe it even played out like this. But anyway, in Ohio, the decoy gets out. She's wearing a Minecraft backpack and holding a doll. And she walks up to the yard where a middle-aged man is standing in his yard, broad daylight. His fly is open. He looks like a pig, like a legit animal pig. And he holds the doll in his arms. He's cradling her. And I'm just like watching this like, yo, how is this even happening? There's dudes, this is right before Thanksgiving. There's dudes putting up Christmas lights on their houses. Meanwhile, this man thinks he's meeting a 12-year-old girl in broad daylight in his yard to have sex. Like, he thinks he's going to walk to her parents' house because her parents are gone, and he has told her he's going to impregnate her.
Ugh.
And it's insane. This dude walks off with her, and he's got his arm around her. That's when Alex and the crew and me swoop in. She gets put in the car. The cameras are on him, and we spend 2 hours in this field showing him all the messages, showing him the most insane things you could say to a child, right? Which is like blowing my mind. And then like it gets to a point where this guy shits himself in front of us in the field. And in Ohio, they will only arrest you if you have like the child porn on your phone. And like it didn't matter that he thought it was a 12-year-old girl. You know, a lot of people have a problem with the entrapment part of this story because they're like, you know, it is entrapment, and I don't like entrapment either. But I'm like, again, my line is with the innocence of children.
Yeah, this is an intention crime.
This person has already been in jail for molesting a 10-year-old. This guy needs to die, in my opinion.
Dead,
jail,
yes.
Okay, but he needs to die. He doesn't belong in society. There's no rehabilitation for these people. It's not like a drug problem or murder. This is someone who's seriously possessed by evil. He has said seriously evil things to a child. So like it was just a weekend of that, like all the time. And it wasn't just like ex-cons or whatever. It was a young man who was a firefighter. You know, it was a guy who ran a Domino's Pizza. It was a coach. It was all types of people. And it's literally everywhere. It's so much. It's so busy that we did like they had like 12 catches when they were in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Every day they could go without sleeping, right? And just every day catch someone else because there's men sending who they think are young itty bitty girls sexual messages. And it was looking at evil. Like when I told you about Epstein and how that affected me,
Yeah.
It was like
yeah.
I'm standing in front of that evil, right? And they're so open about it. It's like talking to a demon. They're not even gonna lie. They're literally admitting to everything in graphic detail. Like, I don't know how Alex does it all the time, but it really fucked with my brain. Like, I've done a lot of stories that last year that were very problematic. With writing about Eliza Blue, no one liked that. Writing about Alex Jones, writing about Carrie Lake or Kanye. I have different groups of people who don't like me for different stories, right? And like some of those were crazy, but like it was like whatever, like I wrote my story, it was it. This was different because I was like staring at absolute evil, right? And I remember coming home and just like I felt broken, right? I felt like, because like it's so rampant that it means it is anybody, and you can never be too comfortable. It could be in your church, it could be in your hardware store, it's at your school. These people are everywhere. I'm looking at Alex's portfolio, everywhere, everyone. I'm like, what is this? Why is it this much? So yeah, I came back and like I couldn't even shave. Like, I was distraught. Like, I at a certain point, I think I might have actually shaved by the Culture War episode. I forget, because that was like a span of time had passed. Yeah, it did, because I think a month or two had passed.
Yeah,
maybe. So I was kind of on the up, but like I did a run of podcasts where I just had like a beard. I look broken. I look at myself and I'm like, there's darkness in my eyes, and it will never go away. Like, that is now in a part of me that I will always live with, but I'm glad I have it, because like I need to know that. I thought the world was dark beforehand. Obviously, I've seen a lot of dark things. I've lost friends to all types of stuff. I know people who have been molested. I know people who have been raped. I know people who have been murdered, suicide, all that stuff. It's not like I've been shielded from darkness, but this was a whole other problem. This is a whole other situation of like, this is pure evil, and it's everywhere. And I just couldn't believe how much it happened in the daylight, and how every state has different laws on how they can capture people. But we did have people get arrested. We did have people who've gone to jail since, and hopefully they stay off the streets. Some of these people live next to schools, live next to playgrounds. So
we should see public shaming. If the government won't, if our local or fed government won't do anything about these folks because they're too busy chasing people down who post things on Twitter they don't like, but just that thing where these people, you're not welcome in our society. You don't get to work. Like, you're gonna have to move away because we're going to shame you, and we don't do that anymore. And I don't know why, but I think that would be
because you can love who you want to love. You can't tell me who I can and can't love. Like that's where that came into play, and we have to, we have to be the men that we're supposed to be, and we got to go kick some ass. Like, you just got to straight up shine them boots up real nice, turn them some bitch sideways, and stick them straight up some candy ass, bro. That's what has to happen.
That's exactly
I'm for public hangings.
So like, this is the thing for me. The shaming thing, I agree with. I don't even think it's going to work on these people because they're so evil, right? Like,
wow.
They pretend at some point that it's wrong only because they know we know it's wrong. Deep down in their fucking evil, it's good to them. They like it. So my problem is like, I don't really like the idea of the state having the ability to execute people, because I don't trust the state either. However, when it comes to kids, I think these people need to be taken care of, right? Because there's no being in society. There's no trusting this. I don't care what you tell me. It's not happening. They don't belong in society. This is evil. Hurting kids is evil. So like, Albert Camus is one of my favorite writers. He's a French guy, and he didn't agree with the guillotine, but he said, if we're going to do the guillotine, it's got to be super public, because at this point when he's writing, it's like behind a wall at a prison. He's like, got to be public. Everyone's got to see it, because this is the consequence. Your head's going to roll if you fuck up, right? And he's like, and I'm saying this as someone who doesn't agree with it, but if we're going to do it at all, it's got to be done for the reasons we're doing it, the consequence. in the fear of, you're gonna fuck with a kid, we're gonna cut your head off.
Yes, public execution is a great deterrent. Watching what the horrible things that happen to you. I mean, crucifixion. That was what that was for, So, and then finally, so everybody needs to check out the article that you have. It's most everything we talk about you can find on Twitter or at your website at Vulture Press. So, what's cool about that is everything we talk about is very accessible, and it's all pretty new. Or new-ish in the last 10 years, pretty much everything that we're talking about has come out. So that's awesome stuff. And then finally, we know you love comedy. You do comedy. And from the astounding and awesome and lovely reception you had from your first set at the Grifties, you're writing some comedy. You're thinking about doing stand-up. Talk to me, baby. Share it with me. Tell me about it. How you feeling?
I knew since the moment you asked me to do the Grifties that I was going to write something, right? And I had been working on something. I had some nebulous idea because, I knew it was going to be politics. So I was going to do something, but I didn't really write it until I drove up to Jersey from West Virginia, which is like, again, going back to the deadline thing.
Yeah.
Something happens in the deadline. I'm like, oh, now I know what it's got to be. So I wrote it on the drive up and then finished it in the parking lot of the dojo before I went in and gave, is it Tyler?
Yeah.
I gave
Taylor.
Tyler.
Yeah.
All right. Taylor, shout out to Taylor for the video and for taking that and putting it on the teleprompter, which I did not use. I was afraid of the teleprompter. I was afraid. I was like, if I look at the teleprompter, I'm going to be like flat. I'm not going to like engage.
You lose your timing. Yeah.
So I was very scared of that. So anyway, thank you for that and for that opportunity. That was such a fun night doing that.
Thank you.
But I always wanted to do comedy. I'm obsessed with comedy. Like I was saying at the very beginning of this, watching Don Rickles, watching the Dean Martin roasts, and then watching Johnny Carson. I was obsessed with Conan. I loved Martin Lawrence, Andy Kaufman, Letterman, all those people. And I was just like, I deep down, I was like, I'd love to try that one day. But it seemed too far removed for me. Like the idea of even remembering something on stage without it being written was terrifying, which I did do at the Grifties, that was like very gratifying. I couldn't remember that at all, more or less. But when I was about 23, I did sign up for the United Upright Citizens Brigade in the city. Yeah. So because I was like, my dream was to be a writer for SNL. That was it. Not SNL for Conan, right? And well, man, when I got to UCB, it's kind of how I felt when I was a professor years later. Like, these people suck. These people are terrible. Everyone had a gimmick. I didn't have a gimmick. Well, I guess to some degree, everyone's got a gimmick. Like, I talked a lot about dark humor and death a lot, but like I didn't have a fancy hat.
Who hasn't seen the dark humor and death comedy trope a million times?
I did not fit in. And like anytime I wrote anything, they're like, yeah, that's not gonna work. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So I got out of there and then just kind of gave up that dream. Because I really did feel like UCB could be the pipeline to Conan or SNL. And I didn't want to act or any of that shit in that, but I wanted to really be a writer. But always, though, it's in the back of my mind, I want to write comedy to some degree. And to the best of my ability, humor has found its way into my journalism. But you gave me the opportunity to really decide to be like, I'm going to try to write some jokes. I'm going to try to be on stage, I'm going to attempt to make them laugh. So it was great. Got off that stage and was immediately addicted and felt really good about it. And then on my drive home from Jersey back home to West Virginia, I wrote like the structure of what I think could be a 30-minute set. So I was like in the zone for it. And I just love the so like for me, storytelling is like the rawest art form. It's just words, right? Comedy takes it like another step further, where it's just like you aren't even. I mean, you're writing beforehand, but at the moment of the delivery, it's you and a microphone and a bunch of people, and there's nothing rawer than that. Like it completely, like, I missed some lines I would have liked to have said on the Grifty stage, but like I was more reacting with the crowd, and like that whole situation is unlike anything I've ever experienced. More than the band, more than people reading my articles or stories or books. Like it's very interesting, freeing, and also terrifying feeling to be on a stage and like have a vague idea of what you're gonna say, and then resonate and like not get a laugh, and then realize like, okay, now I gotta tweet. It's like a weird dance you're doing in your head of like how it's gonna go next, and it's very, very fun. And I like doing all those things in my brain when it came to the stage. So yeah, I'm trying to go back. I know we got to figure out some dates soon. I'm thinking
Yeah, absolutely. When you're ready, let's go. We're in.
Yeah.
So, and also, yeah, man, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then I'd like to do Atlanta and Savannah with my man Pro. HJ is talking about possibly doing some things. I have a meeting with him Monday, and I just think what a great show to have DJ Protocol, kind of music, MC opener, Shane Cashman, author, Hotep Jesus, author, both authors, both book writers. So you understand the process, the discipline, the time, the research, and then you both do comedy, and then we have a Q&A with Shane and HJ with DJ Proto. What a great show. What a great show. Yeah, man, that'd be a killer show. Yeah.
It honestly be an honor, like, for me to be a part of that. I would love that. So we got to make it happen.
No, I'm on it. Yeah. Man, you know how it is,
Ari, you spoke it, bro.
Bro, you know what's holding me up, right? You know what's holding me up right now. So
make it
talent.
happen.
I can't make talent not be talent. You know,
we got to get them dates.
We get them dates, son. So I thought it was to watch somebody as good as you, and as because the worst part of being a comedian usually is writing. That's the hardest part of a true stand-up, right? That's why a lot of guys from the LA and the stand-up thing end up going to Figo's like, hell yeah. By the way, his username is Dumpster Fire. You got to appreciate that.
Beautiful.
And not Dan Aykroyd. The other one from the Blues Brothers is his guy. So anyway, long story short, yeah, we're working on that. But your writing level and your understanding of how people perceive things off a page, and then bringing that to life on stage and watching you feel that. It's very rare that somebody that's as accomplished as you are in writing and that kind of thing decide to do comedy, like start doing stand-up. Usually it works the other way, as you know.
Right.
So it's really cool to see that. And yeah, man, like I said, you just have that crispness. You have a polish, like Steve Burnishness about you, where while you're absolutely comfortable in doing the comedy, you also have this crispness that not everybody has. Straight to the point. Fuego's like, yeah, you have a straight to the point kind of comedy thing. That's not, you're not a wacky comedian. Like, what? You're not that dude. You're not a Carrot Top-ish. Although I want to give you an idea, man. I know you're thinking about comedy, dude. If you got a watermelon and a sledgehammer, bro. I'm kidding.
That'd be
Gallagher.
Make sure you invite Stormy Daniels.
I love Carrot Top. I think he's hilarious. Like I like the Gallagher stuff. I like those gimmicks are funny to me. Like I'm
not hating on the guys. We're saying it's a very different style than your style.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
My favorite is Andy Kaufman, who is able to be a completely different person constantly. Like that is just, to me, he transcended comedy. He didn't even care about the laughs, right? He's like, I want to make you uncomfortable, right? And I like that. But yeah, after talking to you, after doing the Grifties, I was then reminded about, a lot of these things I was watching as a kid, which is where I was obsessed with monologues. I was obsessed with Conan monologues, Carson monologues, Letterman monologues, all that stuff. And then writing books and stories, like, yeah, I do love Faulkner or James Joyce, and I do love sentences that go on for pages. But I think at the end of the day, there's nothing better than a succinct, strong, short sentence which is something I would then learn from certain comedians I was listening to. Like, how do you get? And I also listened to Louis C.K. over the years because he started out more absurdist. Then he kind of whittled it down to like more very confident, shorter, to the point jokes, right? Which were more effective. And I'm a huge Louis fan, right? So it was all those things. And I'm excited to do it again. I hope I bomb because it's going to be really funny for that to happen because it went fairly well the first time. Like, I got some jokes that I wanted. Some jokes didn't go over so well, but some did. But like at some point, it's got to go bad. It's got to go real bad.
Yeah.
And sometimes you bomb on purpose. I mean, remember Andrew Dice Clay came out with a record called "The Day Comedy Died," where he was bombing on purpose. Yep. And sometimes, especially, man, back in the day, the road as a band, as a comedian, it's the same, but you feel even less mentally challenged because I just got to make these people laugh with these stories that I've told or these little jokes I've told for 1,000 times. So sometimes you're like, I'm going to bomb. I'm going to just go out there and talk about Brussels sprouts.
Even Dave Chappelle bombs.
Yeah, purposely. But yeah.
I love Dave. Yep.
He's so brilliant. Yeah, I've got to work with him a little bit. So and he's one of the most amazing. He's very, very deep. He's one of those guys that's cool story about that is that he's doing a show in Maui and Steven Tyler and Woody Harrelson came backstage to hang out with him. So so amazing. And it's that weird star thing where you're sitting there with somebody who's like woe to you and you're hanging out and you're considered one of them. And then Steven Tyler, who your mother loved, walks through the door and you're like, whoa. So it was stargasm. But anyway, and you realize, man, those people, just like the rest of us, have to use toilet paper, man. So at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
They don't have mobile bidets with them, bro.
Oh, true. Or gold toilet paper.
Right.
If I was super rich, I'd just have an ass wiper. Like a dude, that was his job. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, but it's a dirty job.
Dude, bro. That couldn't be a dude for me, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's too sacred. Too sacred.
It didn't have to be a woman. No Diddy.
It's straight no Diddy zone, bro. Got to be a woman.
No Diddy zone, that for sure.
I know Steven Taylor has an I know Steven Tyler has an anus fuego because it is loose, worse than a horse's mouth. Okay, how do you think he sold all those records, bro? Okay, Joe Perry was rocking him. You know,
that's how you sell your soul.
He was at the Diddy parties.
Pulling out the big 10-inch. Anyway, that's a deep cut if you know Aerosmith. Anyway, he was at the Diddy parties, I'm sure. Which is interesting. I would love to get your take. You know what? We're gonna wrap. 3.5 was like my ultimate overtime limit, and we're at 3 hours and 2 minutes. So 3.5 and 2 minutes. So, is there anything you want to leave the people with, Shane? Anything you want to tell them? Anything specific that's important that folks know?
Diddy's a Fed, 100%.
Diddy, absolutely, yes.
It's been clear as day for a long time. 50 Cent is a comedian. And underrated. He's an underrated comedian. I'm watching him flourish right now. It's been funny. Other than that, that's about it. I'm happy to be on this show. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Man, thank you, man. Yeah. You should know better, but thank you. I'm down.
You just kicked it with the blackest Proud Boy in America, bro. You know
that's amazing. That when I was in Washington, Georgia, I saw a black dude with a Confederate flag in his truck, and I was like, "That's amazing."
It's funny you said that. I went to the flea market today, and it was a black dude riding a scooter to the flea market. He had on a T-shirt with a Confederate flag, and I was like, "Okay,
all right,
knock another one off the list. There we go. So one more."
Because I feel like, not that I am, but if I was a black dude right now, I'd be like, yeah, let's bring back all those conservative values. Let's divorce officially from the government and try slavery, motherfucker. See how that works for you. Let's go ahead. You know what I mean?
Come on. Matter of fact, this time though, I'm a for sure owner. All right. We talked about the few owners we knew. Bitch, you gonna know I'm an owner this time. Like, hell yeah. Shoot, I already got 22 acres of land anyway. Let's get it going.
It's a lot of property for a lot of slaves.
Hey man.
Hey man.
Fit 100 an acre.
Right.
Let's not. No. I don't. No. No, well, I was going to ask that Alex Rosen. Could you do me a favor and make a call for my girl Lila Hart? She needs the work. And what a decoy she would make. You know
Holy crap. Dude, imagine that.
Seriously.
That
And
would-
Lila would do it. I know I could get Lila to do that. So not
They're
a problem.
both in Texas. So
That's what I'm saying. So, and I think Alex Rosen has been on Stein's show, right? Before.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, man. Imagine if we put Lila as a decoy.
dude, that has to happen.
Okay. We'll make this work. So,
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm in.
Pro,
Yeah.
how do you want to tell the people goodbye? Leave them with what you want to leave them with, brother.
Oh man, I'm leaving with, man. Keep your eyes open, your head on the swivel. As we stated in the show, we are deep into what may be the last election season we all see. And shit's only going to get real. You thought Baltimore Bridge was coming down, boy. Listen, it's only April. By the time you catch this replay, it's only April. We got a long way to go. So, man, keep your head on the swivel. Love your loved ones. Hug on your loved ones. Get your exercise on. I'm getting back heavier, being in the gym now. I'm back in this thing. Appreciate you, Shane, for coming on, bros.
Yeah, man.
It's a pleasure to be able to say that. I know Shane Cashman.
As my wife can attest, and it annoys her, I walk around every day going, my close personal friend Shane Cashman, and my close personal friend Shane Cashman. Well, see, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now. My close personal friend Shane Cashman is tweeting. Clearly, I need to support my close personal friend Shane Cashman.
That's my name in your phone.
Exactly, close.
Oh.
Yeah, you know,
Man.
we had each other on PlayStations. It says close friends right there, you know.
Duh. I want to shout out everybody that's listened. Of course, Fuego, Amy. We had some new listeners as well tonight. Thank you, American Lasso. Let's see here. Who do we got? Of course, Haram, Hotep Nation. Thank everybody for listening. I want to shout out to my mama because she says she'd be listening tonight too. My mom went to journalism school, was a poor single mother, and so she never got to finish that. But her dream was always to become a journalist. She enjoys your work as well. But it's really cool to be able to have that conversation today. So thank you so much for that. And just want to thank everyone, man. Just thank you, bro. I will tell you this, everyone, seriously, this guy's the real ingredient. It's inspiring to work with genuine folks. You know, I would say you and Bryson are legitimately the two most realist people. You live who you are. You're the genuine ingredient. I kept waiting for, because, you know, I deal with we deal with folks, right? We deal with folks that are on a higher entertainment level. And I kept waiting for the other side to come out with you. I really did. I was like, he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to need heroin, or you guys are a bunch of I was waiting for something, and it never happened. And then you're like this super cool guy. And then you like actually talk to me like I'm a person like you. And then you remind me that I am. So anyway,
you guys were nothing but amazing. Like, honestly, you gave me a great opportunity with the Grifties. I was honored you even asked. Honestly, I've been a fan of like Hotep Jesus for years. So it's all just crazy to me. And I'm just honored and I love it. And yeah, shout out to Bryson. That dude is amazing. That was the first time I'd seen him in person in a long time. So it was good to connect and share some stories of all the stuff we've been through the past year.
Yeah, man, I bet. Wow. Okay. You know what? We're going to go. Maybe, you know, when you have your next project out, or if you ever just want to hang, dude, we're wide open for you to come on anytime you want. But yeah, I feel like we barely scratched the surface. So that's how interesting, and what a great guest. Pro, our best guest so far, ever. Just the best, man. You're the best, bro. Thank you so much, man. If you need anything on our end, anything, as soon as all your stuff comes out, we will promote. Can't wait. Friday, everybody, Friday on X, second installment of Kanye West is Dead by my man Shane Cashman. Read it, share it, love it. That's about all, man. This is like the best. I'm just stoked. So
I appreciate you guys letting me talk at length of all this stuff. So until next time. Till I see you all on Juneteenth for the comedy show.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I'm gonna get you on before that to promote. I mean, it's what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Mhm.
absolutely, man. Thank you so much. And guys, God bless. Happy Easter. If you're
Yes.
out there and you're a little lonely, remember, man, we've all been there, all three of us, and we're all doing much better. And a lot of that is, just admitting that there's something higher and better outside of us, and that much like resurrection, we can experience our own resurrections in life. And I pray that you find that peace and that place where you can have your road. And thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you, Fuego. God bless you all, and we're out of here at 3 hours